Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen. My name is David, and I missed all the fun. But we're here today to have some fun. This past week was Zoomtopia, and there is a lot to talk about, and it all starts with the letters A and I. Actually, there's nothing else to talk about. That's pretty much it, I think. That's pretty much all that they talked about. But I'm really happy to be here with all of you, to see you again. Here with Mr. Mike. Good to see you, sir. Just a quick hello. I know you're busy. Thank you for being busy. Love you.
Welcome.
Mr. John Drinkwater, how are you, sir?
I'm good.
Well, okay.
And I've only got one thing to say to you.
What's that?
Pricing.
Pricing. Okay.
Don't give it away, John. Don't give it away.
That was a teaser. That was a teaser. Something's coming. Hasbuk, how are you, sir?
Very good. So Zoomtopia, AI, anything interesting? Or was
Anything
it just all
interesting?
about AI?
Yeah. My real thought, I'm not sure if I'm going to share my real thoughts because people that I care about deeply work at Zoom and I don't want to hurt feelings, but I have a feeling I just did. Frank, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good, good. It's good to see you. Good to have you here. James, hello, sir.
Hello. I missed all the AI fun.
Yeah, you and I together. Don't worry, folks will catch us up. I'm feeling good about it today. And of course, the indomitable Lois Richter. Hello, Lois.
Indomitable?
Yeah.
You know, I have one word that has nothing to do with the A's or the I's.
Okay.
And I'd like to talk about it when we get done with the big stuff.
Well, what's that? What's the one word?
Twine.
Twine. All right. We had them here before.
So yeah, a couple of years ago, you did an interview and you mentioned that we had talked on Zoom Test Kitchen about twine. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. You showed a little bit. It was fun. So I went back and I found the Zoom Test Kitchen recording that you referenced. Not a single thing on it about twine. So I want to talk about it.
All right. We can definitely do that. Let's start, though, with the Zoomtopia. So Zoomtopia is Zoom's big event. It was here and live and joyful for all of us. These are all the sessions you can now view in review. Let's start with before we get into the nitty gritty of it. I'm curious if I'll just start. Overall impressions of the event. A lot of good information. I was disappointed. And I think I was disappointed because I felt like, again, Zoom didn't live up to the opportunity that they had to be an engaging, participatory platform. I one of the things that I caught up on after the fact was the behind the scenes of Zoom, and it was while there are people in that I love, it was just a recorded video. It wasn't even real time. In fact, at the end of the video, there was the host of that video who was with us last week, who did a fantastic job in the video. Said something about, when Zoomtopia starts. And of course it had already started. So I was, it wasn't as I also watched the session, a couple of sessions about the AI, although that's not really I'm not all that intrigued by it. I did watch a couple. The Zoom Workplace Journey to an AI First Work Platform. There was another, the AI First Strategies for New Ways to Teach, Learn, and Work. So I watched a couple of them, and in those, it didn't look like were pre-recorded. Those looked like they were live, but it was someone just reading a script the entire time. The teacher one, teach, learn, and work. It was literally one person reading a script. There was no interactivity. So I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what other people thought. Yeah, Lois, please.
So, you know that I'm not as much into the high tech stuff as most of the folks around. But I wanted to go, I wanted to see it. It's always exciting. And besides, I'm on the Zoom test kitchen. I should know what's going on. It didn't start on time. Come on, this is Zoom. It didn't start on time. It was so late. And the keynote speaker was supposed to be from here to here. And I went in, there was no keynote speaker. It was somebody trying to drum up enthusiasm, get excited, put something in the chat, trying to drum things up. And that was definitely live because he was interacting with the chat. But it's like, well, that's not the keynote speaker. And then there was something more and something more and something more. And the keynote speaker didn't come on for a long time. And then it didn't end at the time that the programs were supposed to start. So I thought, well, okay, it's time for this program to start. I'll leave the keynote speaker and I'll go and find that program. And it wasn't on. And it was like, I was so confused. So
you were watching the pre-show. You were watching the pre-show, the invites invited us all to join. I think at 12:30 Eastern time. I think that's the time. We can let Kevin. I'm going to go ahead and let Kevin, and he's cool. And yeah, then there was 20 or 30 minutes of pre-show, and then the keynote was supposed to start at 1. I thought I saw the keynote start at 1. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I wasn't paying close attention.
Anyway, I'm sure the content was wonderful. I popped in on one. I tried to go to another and they said, oh, well, that's already over. But come on, it wasn't even supposed to have started yet. And so, maybe I got my timing wrong. I don't know.
They were very short sessions, which I found interesting. Each session, I'm just looking over the schedule here. Each session is 25 minutes.
Yeah. And I was like 2 minutes in, so okay.
Right, that's interesting. I'm a fan of shorter. I'm always a fan of shorter, quicker sessions. Leave people wanting more. This is just an interesting choice, and again, I can't help but wonder if there was more that could have been done. Peter Rosato from YouTube is just sharing that there were too many distracting virtual backgrounds. Interesting. And like you said, not leveraging what we've learned to make it a better digital event. Interesting. And I think the reason that I'm mentioning this is because they went out of their way to talk about how the whole point of this, in some respect, was to show how to do it right. So that's why I'm being a little nitpicky. What did other people think? Again, just sort of big picture, then we can dive into the specifics. Any other reflections, big picture?
Yeah,
did you want to? Yeah, go ahead.
No, my opinion or my view at the end of it was anatomically they were saying something, but I didn't hear anything. So.
Okay.
Good choice of words, Hagma. Good choice of words.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I did see in the chat, Hasmuk, and I'm curious if you had this experience also. There was, at one point during the keynote, toward the end, they were showing the workflow piece of this. So, and how all the AI can save you all this time. And there was quite a bit of excitement in the chat, in the live chat. And it looked cool. It did look cool. You know what I didn't hear? I didn't hear any release dates for any of this stuff. Am I crazy, or did
some of it's Q1?
Some of it's Q1. Okay. I didn't hear a release date for AI 2.0 though. AI Companion 2.0. And we did get an update, but it was just a bug fix. Sorry, Frank. Did I miss?
Some of the specific tools they sort of generally said when they'd be available.
Okay. Gotcha. Maybe I've been spoiled because I'm so used to, at an Apple event, it's here's the announcement, and then in a week you'll see X, Y, and Z. That's not the way they're rolling, but
Well, in the hope of learning something, I joined the European one as well.
and
The EMEA. And it was, I think the big thing was they were just reading off the script. So it didn't veer off script because they were on the script. So
do they just replay sessions, or are they actually?
They say almost I could almost hear and resonate the previous night's one with the
Interesting.
EU one, yeah, EMEA one.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, everyone, that they did, which is a feature in Zoom events, Zoom sessions called SimuLive.
Ah, good call, Mike. Yeah, you're right. That's probably what they used. Absolutely. Good call. Eric Wan. Yeah, but he loves us, and that's sweet. Like, I love when he says he loves us.
Disagree.
Okay. The only thing I'll say about that is maybe it's not for keynote material, but I think the way Zoom started Zoom started as such a personal project that I don't know. There's something sweet to me about trying to hold on to a little bit of that intimacy. That was what the project was about.
I think it's really important for companies to put people on stage if they're compelling and they have something important to say. I really don't care about his basketball team. I didn't care about his 3-point shots. I don't like it. Didn't add anything to the experience for me. When I used to do commercials, lots of times we would go and see the owner of the company and they want to be in the commercial. It's an ego stroke. And I'm like, you really don't need to be in the commercial. It's about tires. It's about whatever the thing is you're trying to sell. And a lot of companies, the person who's in charge wants to be the face of the company, but they're not always very good at it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. There was one of the other presenters, this woman, and I don't know her name. I'm sure she's a wonderful person, but this bothered me. This sort of, she spent so much time not looking at me. She was, I felt like she was constantly looking to the right or to the left. I think that was the one that was.
I don't blame her for that. She's got a live audience. You could blame the director or the camera positions or something, but that's blocking, and that's more of a technical director's fault than her fault.
Thank you. Yes, and I'm not picking on her at all. I'm really more commenting again on the digital experience versus the on-site experience, and that it was something that I noticed, that we've talked here about the importance of eye contact and all of that. And like this view right here, I get it. I really do. I'm just sharing what I thought.
It's
John,
old fashioned. It looks like it's keynotes from 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, John, and then Lois.
Zoom's got a great product. They got some great people. They have no charismatic leaders in their organization, and they have few people that really know how to act on stage. They need to do some acting lessons. They need to learn to be more professional. How can they expect corporates to make use of all these fantastic tools if they don't showcase them? It was all about AI. It was a message to the corporates about AI and how wonderful AI was. And in that respect, it was fantastically successful. It was very inspiring. And things which I had said 2 or 3 months ago, look, it's actually happening. They're going in that direction. Fantastic. For the corporates to be able to AI all the video content and then be able to search it for data to give summaries. This is absolutely amazing, mind-boggling what could be possible once you've got 2 or 3 years worth of videos and conferences and meetings in the database. But for the rest of the audience, what was there?
Interesting.
It was badly done. It was supposed to be a hybrid only. It was. they only had a token audience. Let's be honest, a token audience there.
Right.
It was
They
supposed
said
to
about
be
300 or
hybrid.
400 people. Yeah.
Yeah, but that compared to the thousands they were expecting online, it was supposed to be a hybrid more. They were talking about online. It was not a good online experience. You didn't even have a wall of audience members. You'd had no interaction. They ignored the cameras. They just presented to those few people on stage. Professionally, from a management point of view, fantastic. From a actor's point of view, from a stagecraft point of view, it was really bad. And that's a shame, because that doesn't inspire people to take on the challenge and do it themselves.
And maybe what you just said, something that maybe that's what my challenge with that one speaker was, looking off to the sides, is that there were 50,000 people watching online and there were 300 people watching in the room. And somehow it felt to me like the 300 people got way more attention than the 50,000. Lois, did you still want to jump in? No. Okay. Frank, go ahead, please.
So I didn't find it very compelling. Like, some of the tools they announced are compelling. The event I did not find compelling. And I really feel like a lot of high-tech companies feel like they have an obligation to say the word AI, or to have an AI product for the stock market, for their stock value. And I felt like the whole exercise was to make sure that everyone who's an investor or who follows these sort of business models got the message that they're very much implanted in the AI realm. But as a person who watched the show, I didn't get a lot out of it that I couldn't have gotten off of reading some releases in text format.
Yeah. Yeah. Did anyone notice anything in the lobby, I'm thinking about the platform, as Zoom Events is the platform. The only thing that I saw that was really available to me was, of course, entering the different sessions, and then there was a chat running. I didn't see, and maybe I haven't used Zoom Events enough, and I don't know, and of course I can see that, across the top, there's the sponsors and the speakers, but I don't know, there was nothing that kind of grabbed me from the platform itself, and I was surprised by that. John?
There were quite a lot, a significant number of Zoom employees in the background conversing in the chat. The thing I would catch them out on was you couldn't tell them from anybody else because they were just using their names. So I could realize from the responses coming out that they were Zoom employees because of the way they were speaking. In fact, I did notice a lot of Zoom community champions, including Lois, helping people out. Thank you, Lois, for your help.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But there were still a lot of people that were getting stuck in the lobby because they didn't know you have to go into the meeting. So even though it's been out for quite a while, a lot of people still think that you click on a Zoom button, you end up in a Zoom meeting, and I don't understand this idea of leaving something, going to a lobby. And of course, maybe laziness, probably, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, planning. Those second and third sessions were running in the same meeting room. So you could stay in your meeting room, and if you stayed long enough, the next event would appear in your meeting room. So if you stayed in one, I can't remember what they called them now, but anyhow, if you stayed on one path because you liked one particular set of subjects, you got the next meeting into your room automatically in most cases.
Right. For the different tracks that they had.
That's tracks.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's what they called it. Yeah.
Yeah. Great point. Frank, and then Lois.
Another thing I noticed, in the Zoom community, I've noticed a trend that someone from Zoom will post an announcement or, some little thing, and immediately, without fail, 3 Zoom employees will say, "This is very exciting," or exciting and congratulations. And you can tell they're being forced to do it. It's like some procedure they have. And I felt like in some of the sessions in the chat, I was seeing the same thing. People were gushing over things that I felt like it was staged.
Maybe that's the excitement that I saw, was that sort of staged. That's interesting, because as it was said before by John, I didn't know that they were Zoom employees. That's really interesting. Yeah, go ahead, please, Lois.
So I have never been to a Zoom event before. That was my first time. I totally missed Zoomtopia last year. I really wanted to go this year. And I got there, not only was I a little bit confused by it, but okay, so I'm in this place and they say, okay, keynote. So I click on the keynote and I go to this other room. And now you tell me that wasn't really the keynote, that was the pre-event stuff. But if I stayed around long enough, eventually there was a keynote there. Okay, that's great. And there's lots of talking and chat and links to things being put in. And the chat was really, it was huge. It started out with people saying where they were from, and boy, they were from all over the world. And it was wonderful. And I'm going, I gotta save that chat. Couldn't figure out a way to save the chat. Okay, so it's time for the first of the programs, sessions, I guess they call them. And so I couldn't figure out how to do, so I went back to the lobby. I had that open on my screen, so I had both of them going at the same time. I went back to the lobby, found the thing that I had selected. Oh, and by the way, I thought the way that they handled you making your own personal agenda, that was wonderful. And that was really, it was really well done. I had done that a couple of weeks ago. So I got there and I clicked on the thing. And this thing popped up and said, you have to leave that meeting to go to this meeting. You want to do that? Oh, well, okay. So I agreed. And the other meeting closed, and then a thing came up and said, oh, you're too late. This is over. Hadn't even started yet. So I went, oh, okay, well, I'll go back to the other room because they weren't done talking. So I went back to the other room. They're still talking. No chat. All that stuff that I had seen on all that good, juicy stuff that I tried to save and I couldn't, was gone. So you had to start your chat over again. So I obviously don't know how to work the system there, but it was a first time. It was an experiment. As a lot of people have said, the content was really good. The pick your registration, I thought that was fantastic, but I didn't get a lot.
But your experience, Lois, is really, really important, because for folks who live in anything, they tend to they forget what the experience is like for a newbie. Mm-hmm. And so we tend to create things not for folks who've never been here before, but we tend to create things for folks like ourselves. Although when it comes to this, I'm a newbie also, because I don't use Zoom events. So I think that your experience is probably mirrored by many, many, many other people. Yeah.
How many thousand of people were actually on that call?
Well, the number that they threw out was 50,000. I have no idea if that's accurate, but that's the number that they shared from the stage.
That's incredible.
They turned off the numbers in the system, so you couldn't see who it was. You can do that in a webinar. You can turn off the number so you don't know what the number is. But Lois makes a very good comment about the event page. It's a web page. It's a web page. That's all it is. But I think they need to work out how it refreshes, because yes, if you just leave it sitting there, I did go back to it when it was out of date, and therefore I would have had the same experience as Lois. I would have gone to one of the events, and because the page hadn't updated itself in time with everything that was going on, it would have been behind. It may be when they've got a big event, the event page doesn't refresh. There's a test for you out there.
So you're saying you had to force refresh it to
I thought it does refreshing of its own, but it didn't seem to keep up. So maybe it doesn't keep up when you've got that many people on the line. It's something for us to test one day.
Interesting.
Get 20,000 people to help us.
That's all we need. It's 20K. And by the way, Kevin is, it's good to have you here, Kevin. He's talking about how the culture at Zoom is really strong, and that it isn't necessarily faked. Maybe faked is the wrong word. Maybe it's, it's just employees doing what employees should do and being cheerleaders for the product, whether or not they personally feel that the product is as powerful as Zoom would like it to be. Or maybe they do feel that way. I don't want to pretend to get into their heads. Yeah, go ahead. John, go for it.
Let's just get this in context. Guys, Zoom guys, we love you. we love your product. That presentation you gave for Zoomtopia was no worse than any other corporate. In fact, it was better than 99.9% of corporates. There are few presentations at a corporate level that will look better than yours. The only reason we're having a go at you is because we know you have so many more tools in your system and you could take it to another level.
Yep. Fair enough. All right. So they had trouble with translation audio.
Yes, they did.
Andy's saying, so what was that about? What went on there?
English was in Spanish and the
wait a
Spanish was
second.
in Portuguese. They
Wait
all
a
got mirror
second.
instructions.
Robert's here.
Yeah. Breaking news. Perfect timing, Robert.
Robert's here. Hold on a second. Robert just
Hold
came.
the phone.
Robert, we just started talking about, we literally, as you popped into the waiting room, we just started talking about their translation audio issues at Zoomtopia. Were you there? I don't want to put you on the spot. Did you experience them? Were you aware of them? Oh no, we can't hear him. Oh no. He's got
We need a translator.
And we need All right, let's let him work on that. Mike, so
Sure.
what were some of the issues?
So basically, I actually wrote down all the errors that I saw in order during the actual keynote itself, but we'll go to the actual Spanish translation broke, and that was reported in the chat. I did check it at the time, and it did break. The Spanish was totally English, where they would overlay the Spanish over top of the English, and then it broke a second time later on. Again,
Mike, just to clarify, this wasn't audio. Was this audio translation or caption
Yes.
translation?
audio translation.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. So again, they had English, Portuguese, and Spanish as your choices, and none. So none was officially what was in English. English, unfortunately, they had English up, and it, of course, was English. So I didn't see the relevance of having that one. But the Portuguese actually was fine through the whole keynote. The Spanish one stopped one time. They got it fixed. The second time, it ended up going to the English channel accidentally. And then they figured out that, oops, they put it over there. And then they brought it back to the Spanish channel. And everything was fine again in the Spanish channel until the end of the keynote. But this happened at least 2 or 3 times to the Spanish specific.
Before we
Go
go to Robert, Mike, just one more thing. Sorry, I just want to clarify something. When you say it broke, this is a human being doing real-time translation. So what about it? Could you not hear the translator? What?
Correct. Basically, when you're in the actual translation portion, when you had that enabled, it gave you still the room audio, which is what they were.
Gotcha.
Which was the English. But what would normally happen, which is similar to like broadcast television, is you would have the English quieter, but you would have the louder translation over top of it, right?
Yep.
So that ended up stopping.
Great. And Kevin is noting that we didn't get comms coming into the. I would have actually loved that. That would have been nice. There was no Klingon, John says, and Frank is saying an audio routing issue. Robert, hi. Don't want to put you on the spot.
Hello.
Do you know about this? Did you witness any of this stuff? And any thoughts?
Okay, I spent a lot of time looking at this, watched it, and made notes, so I can talk about this for ages. I hope I don't just take over the whole show. But just to start off with, the basic problem that they had was they started off with a webinar for the main show, and they forgot that if you have 50,000 people and you're letting 200 people in every 1 minute, you need a couple of minutes before you get everyone in. So I actually got in late, even though I had logged in early. Now, that may have been a Europe thing as opposed to an America thing, but I just saw it ticking away and I knew that there was something really, really wrong there. And people forget this. 200 people per minute. That's what you got to plan for letting people into a webinar. Otherwise, you get messed up. You start the event and half the people aren't there. So that was like a baby error. a real beginner's job. That.
All right,
But in
before you
terms
go
of-
on, before you go on,
Mhm.
Frank, you want to chime in about that?
Similar topic. At the end of the show, the person who was acting as the MC or the host for the at-home people, we got the stage audio and his lips were flapping, but we weren't hearing him. And I don't think they solved it till the very end.
Interesting.
What I
Okay.
noticed, sorry to interrupt. What I noticed is at the end when Josh came in, we still had the audio from the stage.
Yeah.
We were getting like, talking about snacks, like what's going on?
Yeah.
And the ESL translation I was reading that went off like half of the show or something like that.
Huh.
So they had
All right.
the sign language and then it stopped at a certain point.
And again, Zoom friends, we love you. We're doing this. We are your, as Frank said, we're your focus group. We're just here to give you the feedback. Robert, let's go back to you. Sorry.
I honestly don't think there was a technology problem with the interpretation. I think they didn't manage that process well. And I'll tell you why. Because I do this every day, so I know what the things to look out for. And the first thing is, before the event started, I was just panning through the different channels listening. And one of the interpreters had an open mic and there was background noises coming in and he was coughing and talking to someone. So that was one thing. There was no one overseeing to say, hey, Joe, you've got your mic open. Can you switch it off, please, before they started? This is something, when we do event, we have one person monitoring every 3 language channels. So if we have 9 language channels, that's 3 people just monitoring and making sure that the interpreters are doing the right thing. So that was the first mistake I noticed. The second thing, you mentioned it over here. At one point, I noticed that the one of the Spanish interpreters was sitting on the English channel at the same time as someone was interpreting into Spanish. So the 2 Spanish interpreters weren't in sync. One was interpreting on the Spanish channel and the other one was interpreting in Spanish on the English channel. And then when the language switched, that just messed everything up, okay? So it was a human error, in my judgment, and not a technology issue on Zoom level.
I just want to jump in, Robert, and because that's such an important point. Not every problem can be fixed with technology, and I think that's why I'm a little. I don't run to these AI sessions, because to me the piece that's most important is not. I love the fancy stuff that can do everything in the background, but what's really powerful to me and what Zoom has given to me is the ability to connect to real human beings. And some of these problems are by not putting enough energy and expertise perhaps into the people. Yeah. Sorry, Robert, I cut you off.
And of course, they had the classical problem where Mickey wasn't there. Mickey wasn't there to run their audio. Yeah? And this was so obvious that they didn't have Mickey on board. But one of the issues were the interpreters weren't sound checked properly. And one was speaking at one level, the other was speaking at the other level. So when they swapped, you had 2 different levels of sound. And that's really annoying when you're listening to something. Really annoying. And they should know better in that respect, the person who was responsible for the interpreters. In terms of the interpretation, was there anything else wrong? I don't know. I started posting in the chat as soon as I noticed the problem, and it took them a good 10 minutes to see that. And I don't believe someone was ignoring what I was writing. I just don't think there was anyone there to react to it, which is also an issue, because if there's an issue and it comes in the chat, there should be a channel that says, boom, Robert, there's an issue there. Just read the chat. There's something going on there.
Or there are 50,000 people chatting and it just wasn't seen. No matter how many people you have in the chat, if it's going by that fast, maybe it,
there weren't 50,000 people chatting. I was on the chat and John and I saw each other. I saw a lot of people on the chat. Mike, it was possible to read the chat. It wasn't scrolling like a YouTube thing. Yeah? It was jumping through gradually. And so
what I tried was I did the general chat, and then I actually just messaged hosts and panelists to see if that got better.
Good point.
but
Right.
you know,
Do you know,
I agree
Robert?
that they really need to hire Robert's company for the
That
next
was going to be my
Zoomtopia.
next question. My next
Because
question was, do we know who they use?
Zoom is great, but they are not a detail specific, focused on one little thing like Robert is. So for that part of their thing, hire a professional.
Yeah, I did actually do some work for Zoom initially when they started off with interpretation, but then they focused on doing it in-house because there were so many departments. Every department had its own group of interpreters, their own ordering, and it was just messy.
Kevin also is making a really good point in the chat. He says that it's a high touch but low frequency feature for the events teams, better managed fully by a small team that does it consistently, right? If they're not doing it all the time, then again, they're not going to be as good at it as someone who's living in it, like you are.
Yeah. But having said that about the interpretation, I think it was very nice of them to have it. And seeing that was an America-wide event, they chose the 2 languages that are spoken in South America. I was surprised they didn't put French in because you've got the whole of Quebec, Montreal, Quebec, which is all French, and you've got certain other islands that are French-speaking. But anyway, let's not get into that. I was just surprised.
Forgive my naivete, but did they have different translation options for the second go around for the
the
Asia go around? Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
I don't know either. Frank, go ahead.
Do you ever listen to This Week in Tech? Alex Lindsay's part of that show with Leo Laporte and the other fine people on that show. Anyways,
Yeah, sure.
Alex often says this, and I agree with him. The whole event premise is kind of old-fashioned to me now, and I sort of prefer the way Apple's been doing it. If you're going to have pre-recorded segments, have pre-recorded segments and produce the hell out of them and make it slick.
Right.
I agree with you, Frank. Those sessions where Andy was, because I watched all of the Andys, they were pre-recorded. They were so smooth. They were so clean.
So they were smooth and they were clean. And again, I didn't need to show up at a particular time to watch it. It could have been released. And you know, there's a lot of discussion now about how is Apple going to do this October release? You know, are they going to have an event? Are they going to just do a scheduled video release? Are they just going to pop a video out and not tell anyone? And I get that there's value to having a scheduled video release because then you can have people in a chat concurrently and, you know, speaking to one another. And maybe because I was driving while I was listening, that's why I didn't feel that sense of connection. If I had to guess, I would say Tony asked earlier on about whether this was for appealing to regular people or professionals. Regular folks probably were watching this on their phone or their iPad, and I'm not sure that they had access to or easy access to the chat if they were watching. If you don't have lots of physical real estate, it's sometimes hard to manage all the different pieces of Zoom. So I agree with you, Robert. Yes, that was much better produced. I was disappointed in that because again, I showed up for a session. I wanted a session, not a pre-recorded video.
Yeah. But do you remember what Andy said when he was on Zoom Test Kitchen, what he said when he invited us to go to Zoomtopia? Come and see how we produce these events. And that was my focus. I wasn't looking for content at all. I was just looking at the way they produced it. And to be very honest, I think that the way they aligned Zoom tiles with Zoom Production Studio was brilliant. You couldn't tell the difference nearly. And it was so smooth. It was so consistent throughout the whole event. I really enjoyed that. I liked it.
Yes. And during his session about, you know, how did we build this? How do we do this? I heard the word tiles a couple of times, but they didn't show me how they did it. I wanted to see, how did you you put tiles into production studio, and what did it look like? And I mean, yeah, we got a couple pictures of the control room, but I don't know.
Now,
I'll
David, here's the question. Was that this year's control room or last year's control room?
That I don't know. I assume it was this year's, only because why would they show a picture of last year's? But maybe I'm wrong. Yeah,
I know
Lois, I'm
that
sorry.
when they did the video portion of that, David, when they were showing everything and like some of the stage of that during that webinar, the stage clips were last year's, not this
Well,
year's.
they had to be. Wait a
They
second.
didn't.
Now, good point, Mike. They had to be because this was a pre-recorded video. You're absolutely right. Right. They recorded this long before Zoomtopia ever happened. Yeah, so maybe it was. Real quick, Lois, and then we'll get back up to Frank. Sorry.
So I think I want to give kudos to Zoom because they did make sessions that were pre-recorded. I didn't understand that as I was going in. I thought they were going to be meetings like we have here. No, this is a webinar. And in webinars, it doesn't really matter if it's pre-recorded or they're doing it live. You can't interact with it anyway. So it was nice that they had chats available in the sessions, and that way you could interact with the other people who were there live, who were there at the same time. But I won't fault them for pre-recording that stuff because you cut out so many problems by doing that. You know ahead of time if you make an oops and you can fix it. Anyway, I thought it was very well done. I just wish that I knew more so I could have gotten more out of what I saw.
Yeah, maybe part of what I'm struggling with, Lois, is that because I wasn't able to, I didn't watch it live, and so I didn't participate in the chat. And so watching it after the fact, maybe that's why I didn't get as much out of it as I could have. Yeah, I'm still not a fan of the. I don't know. I don't need an event where someone's just going to read off a script or play a pre-recorded video. Like, I don't know. That's just, if I'm going to show up, I want something real and sorry, Frank and Robert.
So one of the, I think, problems is it's a sort of a roadmap for the next year. So a lot of the products they talked about don't exist for us. They may exist internally, but we can't go and touch them or use them. Maybe they're not willing to give sneak peeks. Without that, it was kind of boring. And I would hope that maybe in the future they might consider having another event when the product's release happens. And then what I would really find compelling is, you know, how they had the workshop thread or whatever you want to call it, where you could sign up tracks. I would like to go to a workshop where they showed you how to use the tools and you could ask live questions in the chat. That would be way more compelling to me. If you're an Apple person, you can go to the Apple store, and if you sign up in advance, they have workshops and they'll show you the different tools they have, whether it's Final Cut Pro or iMovie or something. I would like something like that virtually, where I go and there's an expert from Zoom showing me the product and how it works, and you can ask questions in the chat. That would be much more compelling than what happened yesterday.
Yeah. Robert, please.
I agree with Frank, but after I think the second Zoomtopia, I remember them because I attended the Zoomtopias right from the beginning. And there were sessions where you could jump into breakout rooms and actually speak to Zoom employees and go into details and really address all sorts of nitty-gritties and get contacts from them and then follow up afterwards. But they stopped that. And that's when they started with things like after hours and especially when Zoom events came out, all of the after hours with Zoom events. So I think they went off in that direction. I wouldn't be surprised, to be very honest, if they didn't have these sessions with Zoom employees on the different topics, but we just don't know about it. Like we just don't know about a whole lot of other things. I mean, how do we know about the Zoom events after hours?
Never heard of it.
You don't see it. You just know that it's there, and you can go and join up and you sign up. And then once you've signed up, you get all the emails. So I'm sure they have more of these. Just we don't know where they are. We don't know when they are, and we don't know how to sign up.
Yeah.
So, having said that, I'd just like to go back to what Lois was talking about. As producers, we looked at that event, I think, very differently from the way existing clients or Frank has two hats here, and he's probably got the most difficult hat to wear because he is a producer and he manages a large organization of Zoom users. So he sees the requirements and he sees all the production things as well. But most people aren't like Frank. They're either just big customers or they are producers. Yeah, and we were looking at it through the lens of a producer. And going back to looking through the lens of the producer, like I said, the graphics was brilliant, but I was really, really amazed at how they literally the audio right from the very beginning. In the beginning, I had about a 10-second lag in audio. I mean, it was amazingly long. And then we started talking about that, and they started catching up. And at one point, I don't know how they did this, they overtook it. The audio was coming before the video, and then they brought it back. And it was obvious that someone was playing it. And what became very obvious is that they had different routing for the different sessions. So they didn't have anything that was consistent throughout the whole of the event. Now that's a real eye-opener to me because I hadn't thought about that, that you could have different audio settings in terms of delays, lags, whatever, depending on the session that you're in during a Zoom event, which is the issue they had.
Wow, fascinating. Lois and then Ruben.
So, David, I heard you say, I really wanted to see how they did it and show me but that's an exact contradiction to you want a short, pithy 20-minute session. It's like, okay, these are two different things. So maybe having those focused groups. Have you read the chat? Kevin writes, maybe it just needs to be managed better, but every time our team did events like that, he's talking about the focused events, even if it was supposed to be focused on a specific feature, we tended to have a lot of people that had no use for the tool. They joined, they get confused, they ask basic Zoom questions, and ultimately would get mad because it wasn't tailored for them. So if Zoom does have the idea that giving more technical how-to advice is good, I think that would be great. And I think they would need to figure out a way to have people sign up with a specific focus that they're interested in. And then if that is going to happen, they get notified so that you don't get the casual drop-in. I mean, even here on Zoom Test Kitchen, we talk about one topic for a show frequently. And if someone were to drop in and go, I don't know how to use a breakout room, it wouldn't go over really well with the people who are here all the time. And we know breakout rooms, So, I think it's a big challenge. And I think they did well what they did, but I agree, it would be really nice to have some of those training sessions.
So there are a few different competing things here, and then Ruben, I'm going to come right to you. One is sort of in-depth, hands-on sessions. Another is shorter, more focused sessions. There's well-produced video versus live engagement. And I don't mean to suggest that these are antithetical, but in some ways they are at odds with one another. And then there's also what Tony mentioned a while back, which is who's your audience? Is it for professionals or is it for lay people? And if you look at what was announced and the sessions, it seems clear to me at least that this was not directed at lay folks. This was directed at corporates, and I don't know what professionals is, but I don't think it was geared toward video and audio professionals, but it was geared toward corporations, education, government. Like, this is not for the pro user. This is for business enterprise education users. And it seems to me that maybe that those folks would appreciate, I don't know, I'm not sure that the big ideas is enough to inspire that crowd. I think that they need a little more detail, but maybe I'm wrong. Ruben, sorry.
It's fine. So as Robert mentioned earlier about the office hours, that not a lot of people are aware of it. I joined Monday for starting with sessions, and it was a simulcast. A lot of people didn't know it was simulcast, so they were a little confused. They were saying, why I'm not seeing the chat, why I'm not seeing the poll. And I mentioned to them, there's office hours. And they go like, your office hours? I'm like, no, not my office. It's Zoom office hours. Here's the link. You could sign up for it. And then on Friday, today, it was the same thing. I put it in there so people will know about the office hours, so they know where to ask the questions and have a one-to-one instead of a webinar.
So I don't even know about Zoom office hours. What is?
Oh.
So how do you find it? When I Google Zoom office hours, I get nothing. I get a whole bunch of nothing.
That's the issue. I don't know how I found it. I just stumbled upon it.
In the community forum is one way to get to it.
So it's a thing?
Yeah, it's like in the Zoom
events.
About 6 months ago, Zoom started having in-person sessions, kind of like this, that you can drop in. There's different ones you can sign up for.
Every day.
And there's one, I think that Mike and John and a few other people go to every Wednesday? And
Wednesday,
I always have a competing meeting, so I can't go to it. But I do like that they're doing that. I think that's a very good approach.
So when you go to the Zoom community, just so everyone knows, when you go to the Zoom community and you search for office hours, the first thing that comes up is a link to officehours.global from Rupert, one of the community champions, which is kind of funny.
That's a 2021 post.
Yeah, how I found that thing, it was when we signed up for the events like license, I went to the web hub, and that's when I was like, what's this? Clicked on it, I was like, oh, that looks interesting. You get starting with events, starting with sessions, and then office hours there buried, but you can find it there.
It's in the chat here. I don't know if someone can put it in the chat for the YouTube.
Google, is it what John sent over here? Copy. Let's see if I can pull this up for us. Zoom Events Hub. Is this? Oh, here we go. Zoom Events office hours.
Yeah. So there's
events though.
Yeah. So the Zoom Events office hours. That's where John, Ray, and I met Ruben, and that's why we told Ruben to come over, because he was asking a lot of Zoom Test Kitchen related questions. So I said, come on over. That's why when Ruben joined us last week, because we saw him on Wednesday. So, and again, Josh came last week to the Zoom Test Kitchen. Josh is the one that runs the Zoom Events office hours. And also for Lois's sake, that was the person that was in the pre-show and the post-show that was talking to everybody and doing the engagement.
Right. Just to be clear, though, this is not Zoom office hours. This is Zoom Events.
Which I don't have or use, so it would be pointless for me to go get there.
Right. And this is lovely. I didn't know this existed either, but this is squarely for folks who are using Zoom Events.
No.
My point was that...
Sorry, wait, who's saying no? Someone correct me, please. John.
This is, okay, so Zoom Events and Zoom Sessions are products from Zoom. And then the hub is where all your events and sessions sit. If you Google Zoom Events Hub or use the link, you will end up in this page that you're showing now. And this is a hub where there are lots of events, lots of webinars. Let's not use the word events, get confusing, lots of webinars and sessions. Some are pre-recorded, some are live, all about different features of Zoom. Okay, they're mainly around Zoom events, but they're not particularly on Zoom events. They're on features, they're on ideas. You've got Get Started with Zoom events. You've got webinars, masterclasses. One here about the RNTP, how that works.
Which is only in Zoom events.
Which is only in Zoom events.
I'm just
But
saying,
Zoom
I'm
are now
I'm not
gradually
complaining. It's just, I just want.
but they're
clarity
actually
on it.
starting to do more of these because they don't like, remember they want you to use their video platform, not YouTube. So they're plonking all of their videos now into this platform. So this is where you need to go if you want to find something about Zoom. It doesn't matter what you search, really. This is where it's all starting to go. And I get invites now for lots of different variations. I've had an introduction on just basic Zoom on one event I saw come through. So it's
there's all kinds of
up.
events.
Yeah.
How to have successful meetings, how to use Zoom phone, how to have engaging webinars. They have a whole series of them all the time, and it's all the different products.
Right. This is actually where Ruben and I were earlier today. We were in the engaging webinars that Josh was running today. Unfortunately, I was hoping it would be live and interactive, but Ruben and I figured out it was semi-live. But yes, it was, again, if you've never been, it was a great tutorial of walking through all the different portions of doing within, again, the Zoom events platform, webinars. I'm going to be very specific when I say that, because again, you can do a Zoom meeting and Zoom webinars within the Zoom sessions or Zoom events platform. But again, you don't necessarily need those portions, but they do give you added features once you have the Zoom sessions or Zoom events license. And some of you that have taken upon yourselves to actually get Zoom sessions, the pay per ticket or pay per viewer, John, am I doing that right? Pay per attendee.
Attendee.
Right. Then you would actually get access to all the liminal products. If you had
But
that.
this is still not for plain vanilla Zoom folks like me. I don't have Zoom events.
Yes, it is. They talk about every aspect. They have different sessions or whatever you want to call them, meetings, whatever you want to call them. They have different ones every week focusing on different things. Just sign up for the ones that you care about. If you just want to do Zoom meetings, they have that. If you want to talk about Zoom phone, they have that. If you want to use Revenue Accelerator, which no one here uses, they have that. They have all kinds of them. You just have to pick through the list and find the ones that have meaning for you.
Yeah, but if I understood Lois correctly, you don't need Zoom sessions or Zoom events to be able to use this. This is like a web page. You just go into that web page. It's got an URL, and then you can see and access all of the resources that are made available. My point was, no one knows about it. How do we find out about it? That was my point. How do you get that URL? Where do you get it from?
Robert, we're not even quite sure how anyone knows about Zoom, because they don't really do that much marketing at all, apart from a car whizzing round a track on Formula One. They don't really seem to do that much promotion and advertising. It just happens. It's magic.
Referring to this, it's the sound that the car makes as it goes past. Zoom, zoom. That's what you're referring to, John?
No, Zoom sponsor Red Bull. Formula
Did you
One.
hear the really bad pun the Red Bull guy made? We don't spend a lot of time looking in the rearview mirror. I was like, come on, that's so cheesy.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Ruben.
We can't.
There's another hub that's basically it's not the events one, and then it has like, the phone, and it has, all the products from Zoom. So maybe there you can find, the Zoom meetings, getting started with Zoom, how to train basically, co-workers and employees. So there are more sections, just not webinar and events and sessions.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's confusing because of all the fact that they are using their Zoom events platform to offer all these trainings for their Zoom products that happen to be also Zoom events, Zoom sessions, Zoom webinars, Zoom meeting. in the Zoom events world. And then of course, outside the Zoom events world, they're also doing webinar ones and meeting ones. But again, they're using their main Zoom events platform, like John was saying, like a YouTube, so that you could actually sign up and partake in live and unfortunately sometimes simu-live based webinars. Go ahead, Lois.
So while you've been talking, I've been over there, you know I do that all the time, and I've been going through the search feature, and I've been searching for things that are not Zoom events. And so I search for the word meeting. Nah, there aren't any. Twine, nothing. Polls, nothing. Breakouts, nothing. So I'm going to have to dive a little deeper in this to find anything that is relevant to what I need.
So Lois, you know where I found the links that I wanted, and I think you would probably have some success there too.
Where?
On the Zoom community, there's a section of the Zoom community where the Zoom staff posts links, and if you subscribe to the actual community post, you'll keep getting notifications in your inbox telling you each week what the new ones that week are going to be. I get tons of them, and I throw a lot of them in the garbage because I'm never going to use Zoom Revenue Accelerator. But when it's something like hosting engaging meetings and webinars, I go, yeah, I'll sign up for that. I didn't go to it today because I had a feeling it would be simu-live and they'll send you a recording later. So I just watched the recordings later. But you might have some success there. And if I'm not going to look for it right now, but if I find it during my travels this week, I'll bookmark it and I'll bring it for you next time.
Thank you. And so what I'm hearing you say, Frank, is that this is the wrong page for me to be on. I need to join something else called community.
Yeah, they also have the Zoom Learning Center, where they have a lot of recorded training and different things. They have a lot of training opportunities in different places. Maybe they're just not doing a good job of making it easy to find or something. But the Zoom Learning Center also offers a lot of live or pre-recorded sessions.
I did post another link for that for the training.
And that's learning.zoom.us/learn. Gets you to the main learning center.
Rupert put in the chat, I think, or you did. Thank you.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
But Lois, you are correct. Zoom want us to use Zoom hubs as a business and as users to their business. And in the hubs, they will have their own version of YouTube where they're going to put all this great content. And of course, they're going to have their AI running in the background, et cetera, et cetera. But they've only really started using this for their own internal promotion of their own products in the last 3 to 6 months. And I think it's not going to be until next year that they're going to start to have enough content in there to make it a place that people want to hang out and move around. And the other thing is, the other problem with this for Zoom is that a Zoom hub is supposed to be controlled by one person or a division. So the Zoom Events hub has got Zoom Events in it, and it's not going to have some of the other things you want, in which case somebody else in Zoom who looks after another product needs to have their own hub, and they don't really have a way for you to jump from one hub to another. So they're going to have to sit back and have a look at this and think strategically, how do you get the information to people and how do you get around? And I think at the moment that it's just a lot of silos all producing their own stuff in different areas. And unless you happen to fall across it, or you end up with a set of emails, I, like Frank, keep getting bombarded with our emails now about Zoom stuff, but I can't tell you how I got on the list. I don't know where it comes from, but there is quite a lot of new information gradually getting through the system, and I'm sure they'll get there.
Thank you, John. And if they need a focus group of one, I am available.
So absolutely. Back to you, David.
Yeah, sorry to jump off there for a second. Frank, go for it.
Trying not to be pushy or anything, but I don't know, when we sort of feel like we've had our organic conversation, I really want to talk about the new features that they announced.
Absolutely, 100%. Where should we start, Frank? Because there was a lot, but a lot of it felt like all part of the same big picture of.
So I broke it down in the Discord. I probably
Yep.
overposted, but I have a running list going in there. Obviously it's the big announcement was AI Companion 2.0, and then that breaks down into about 20 different things, right?
Right. So this is just looking at your posts here. Oh, no, that's an old one. Sorry. You did it under Zoomtopia, right?
Correct.
Yeah, with the Zoomtopia. I can't find it. Where is Zoomtopia?
I have it
There
open.
it is. I got it. Okay. So here we go.
But maybe Robert had his hand up. Maybe it's better to see what Robert wanted to discuss.
Well,
No,
let me just.
I'm completely good with going with this topic.
So real
because
quick,
we-
I'll just read a couple of these. Frank, are you comfortable if I share the
Yeah, of
screen
course.
that you Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right. So here's what Frank put together for us. Zoom from document analysis, get information about documents connected to Zoom Workplace, including email attachments, documents from chat, and Zoom Docs. They also mentioned something about, and I didn't catch this completely, about the integration with Google Docs and
That'll be a data source. So your things on your hard drive or things that you attach to, Zoom, if you give it permission, can go into your documents, analyze them, and use that as data to the AI to give information during a meeting, let's say, or
Gotcha.
some other place.
And,
so
and just to be specific, sorry, David, just to
No,
be
please.
specific, they will give you information that they find they retrieve. They won't share that information, and they'll only give it to you.
Right. So you can quickly find the information you need about colleagues and teams. When you hover over the response given by AI Companion, you can learn more about a source. Stay on top of action items with Zoom Tasks. That was an interesting one, Zoom Tasks. And particularly the piece that was interesting to me about it is how it's integrated into other things. So when I do something, if I have a task to create a Zoom clip, somehow it seemed to me like it will know when I've completed the Zoom, like I don't have to go back in and check it off. At least that's the way it seemed to me. It will kind of know that I did the Zoom clip and automatically update, I think maybe. For meetings, web query, you can access relevant information from the web directly within your meetings. Wonder what that will look. What will that? Oh, you could just ask because it'll be a side panel, right? That's this whole thing. The Companion 2.0 is going to be a persistent side panel.
That's a really important point. Yeah, it's going to be like a digital assistant or something that persists all day long if you want it to.
Right. I wonder if it's gonna. Do you remember Zoom? The persistent meeting. What was that? Huddles. And the idea behind Huddles is that it just lived as sort of a sidebar in your. I think it was on your. I don't even think it was in Zoom Workplace. I believe it was a separate bar on your desktop. I could be wrong about that. I wonder if this will be that way also. Or, sorry.
I shared the screenshots from the.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, if you look at my link for the Zoom
Great.
Companion announcement, you've got some screenshots in there.
I just want to point something out before we go too far down this list. Some of this will be core Zoom AI, and some of it's an add-on that you have to pay extra for.
Right. Well, they actually talked quite a bit about how this is included for free. This is included for free. No cost, no cost, no cost. But then there was that, and I forget the name for it, the special add-on, the custom add-on, or the custom companion. What was that called? Where you can build your own.
So there's AI Studio.
Right.
And then there's custom AI Companion add-on.
So we have to talk about those separately. All right. So let's just start with these. So this is what potentially what AI Companion could look like. So it's right. You just ask it, who am I meeting with today? I'm not sure. Forgive me. But if I'm already looking at my calendar, why do I need to ask it who I'm meeting with? Can't I just say it?
But did you also hear that there's going to be an app on your phone that you can bring to meetings and just have the phone sit on the desk and listen to you and do the same sort of
Yes.
thing? So Who knows how this will manifest?
No, absolutely. That's fantastic. This one particular screenshot seems a little silly to me.
Kind of reminds me of Tony Stark talking to Jarvis or something.
Right. All right. So here we go. What decisions were made? So we had a product launch meeting. You've got a description there. You've got an agenda, and you have attachments all in there. So this is nice, right? And then you've got an AI companion. So you have your meeting apparently. I wonder if you put those, I wonder if these attachments were there before the meeting. Either way, you can ask based on presumably not only the meeting, but also all of the context that you've given it here, all those attachments, you can ask it questions. What decisions were made? They talked a lot about incorporating docs right into your meeting. We haven't played with docs in quite a while. In team chat, summarize this chat channel. So here's AI. No, so now that I'm looking at AI Companion here, it looks like it's its own, you can pop it out. So this guy up here, right, that means you can pop it out of Zoom. So you could have a persistent just AI Companion window somewhere. And now here's the custom add-ons. Custom AI Companion add-on enables organizations to customize and personalize their Zoom AI Companion experience to help meet the unique needs of their business employees. So you can upload staff, what's it called? HR documents for folks. And then you could just search within AI Companion to get information specific to your organization. It can also integrate with Atlassian, Glean, Workday, Zendesk, Box, Asana, so on and so forth. Unique vocabulary. Oh, this was also a big thing. I know I'm just kind of like running through this too quickly, but we can go back. This clips with AI Companion, that now you don't need to do the video yourself. You can use avatars. I just lost my mouse. Plug this in. I've completely lost control of my computer. I cannot find my mouse anywhere. There it is. Custom AI Companion will be a $12 per user per month add-on. It'll be available in the first half of 2025, with some select capabilities available in preview in the coming months.
Well, I guess we won't be getting it. We're not going to pay that much per month. Maybe there'll be like tiered pricing for corporate or enterprise versus individual packages.
I just wonder how much integration that AI Companion is actually going to give, because will this, when I think of it, I use Zapier to pass information from one app to the other instead of building APIs. Is this going to be like a master API that will help me integrate to other apps and pass information backwards and forwards?
It's a good question.
They have already done some integration with some apps, and that's the ones they list. So they have done some integration.
Yeah, I can see HubSpot there. That means if it's HubSpot, and HubSpot is like a platform, it's huge. So if they've got an API into HubSpot, are they just searching on your account for information, or can they actually get things, make things happen?
But do they need an API? If you give it, if you authenticate, can't they just access your data from there?
Yeah, that's why they need an API. They need a way for the computer to interrogate the data on the platform.
Gotcha.
So they will use the API of that platform to go and interrogate the data. So it becomes a data source, just like anything else, like any other data source. There's a big fight going on in the world at the moment on AI, and that is, who is the custodian of your data sources? because they're the ones that are going to be in charge. If you're going to give all your data sources to Zoom to administer for you, you're tied into Zoom. Zoom is now your data source. My CRM, I can tie data sources into my CRM, so I can use it for my CRM. There are lots of apps out there which will allow you to, and you can make them up yourself. And I've got one running locally on my PC. But the big fight in the corporate market is which AI data source are you going to use? Because it's going to be a bit like some other products that are out in the world. Once you start using one particular company for your AI data, it's going to get increasingly hard to leave them as the amount of data that they are serving you builds up. And that's why everybody is putting AI on their groups, just like the Zoom AI test kitchen.
Coming soon.
Coming soon, right? Let's just quickly, I want to keep going through the list here. So meetings.
Can't see it anymore.
Yeah, I know. Hold on a second. Meetings. So chat, search for chat history effortlessly, focus on most important conversations, mail and calendar, get a concise overview of key points of your emails, okay. Docs, quickly understand the main point of your documents, search for specific information within your documents.
Isn't that so cool? I mean, the amount of times you look for a doc, instead of, Frank has told us, I remember about 2 years ago, don't use folders, use tags, because you'll find everything so much easier. This is like a mega tag. It's got, and a detail tag if you need it.
Although I'm not sure how this is AI. Isn't this just search?
But it's actually going through the documents and it's actually pulling out certain information from the documents and telling you where that information is located.
Yes. If it's pulling the information out and then presenting it to us, yeah.
There was another mention during one of the sessions that if you give it access to, for example, your website and all of your marketing documentation, if you're producing a document, it'll go there and research your product information available and make something that you want in exact context. So it's big.
It is big, but that what you just described, it seems to me, is part of that custom. What did they call it? The custom thing, right? Where you can feed it your org's specific information. That Iva says that's where this is going to come in handy. Because presumably this is just what is the I forget the name of their AI partner. What was it again? Perspective, per something. No one knows.
Andy.2.
I'm not sure.
Perplexity.
Say it again.
Perplexity.
Yeah, Perplexity. Right. And who is that? Whose is that? Do you know? I don't know.
I think they're an entity unto themselves.
Oh, they are? Okay. It also is an interesting question. How much of this is going to happen on your device, meaning without reaching out into the internet? They talked quite a few times about how it would be able to reach out into the interwebs.
I don't think much. Apple's the only company I know who's trying to mostly do it on your device first, and then occasionally get assists from either their own server farm they're going to build for this, or occasionally you'll also be able to reach into all the other ones.
Yep.
David, from the PC side, it'll come down to if the PC has the capabilities and if Zoom is going to be utilizing the actual NPUs on the PC side to make sure that they can do some of the grinding of the data locally before actually farming it off to their servers.
Yep.
If this, David, is okay, so this is Zoom Docs. Is this summarization, reading a book and summarizing it, is this going to be something that is only about a Zoom doc, or would you have to like take the text of the book and put it into a Zoom doc and then do it there? Or is this going to be something that can happen with text other places on your computer?
Well, if you're looking for what you just described, then I would strongly suggest visiting Notebook LM by Google, which is a pretty amazing new tool that they've released, that you can upload any source that you want, and it will give you lots of different information about it. So this is a class that I'm teaching on digital innovation in it's for a bunch of rabbis, digital innovation in Jewish tradition. And so I uploaded 4 different sources, 4 different articles that I wanted them to read. And then based on that, Google LM created a timeline, it created an FAQ, it created a study guide, and it even created a 13-minute podcast, which explain. This is the new kind of standout feature from Notebook LM that explains this, the core ideas of these texts by 2 AI people. It sounds pretty amazing, actually. Google, the AI companion for Google Docs is to help you understand what you have in Google Docs, as I understand it.
But there's no restriction to just text, Lois. What Zoom's going to do is go through your recordings, like your video recordings. It'll be able to leverage. It's going to, if you put PowerPoint slides on a screen, it's going to use OCR to read what your slides say or other graphic things that you put on screen. Like, it's not just going to be text only.
Right.
So it
Going
can
back
go through 20 years of my radio shows and
Well,
know what I said?
It depends how it depends if it can get access to them. First of all, are you going to buy the integration? Are you going to allow it to do that? Like, there are mechanisms
you
that have to
uploaded
be.
them to your hub, then the answer would be yes.
But I think the big idea here is that it is not. My take on this is not that Zoom wants to become the repository or the place where you just upload stuff and then Zoom unpacks it for you. But instead it's about workspaces or workplaces. So you have a team, you've got team chat. That team has a meeting. As a part of that meeting, there are 7 attachments, 7 documents that you want to share with folks. And then you have decisions from that meeting. And then you can, maybe you have notes in Zoom Docs from that meeting. Then AI Companion is not just, when you ask it a question, it's not just looking at the Zoom doc, it's looking at the transcript of the meeting. It's looking at all the attachments that you uploaded. It's looking at, the previous AI companion responses that it may have already delivered to you. So I think that's the context in which AI companion is really powerful. There's also, sorry, let me find it. Here it is. So this is, and thank you, Frank, for popping this in the chat. This is sort of what this looks like in a day, right? So you start your day by checking what tasks you have due in the following week. Newly announced AI first Zoom tasks, deeply integrated with AI Companion, enabling your AI assistant to detect and recommend tasks from meeting summaries, emails, docs, whiteboard, and more. And then AI Companion will help you complete those tasks also. So you had a meeting apparently, and someone mentioned that you need to create a blog post to announce the Nutrition Assistant product launch. Well, it created a task for you. It was assigned to you. If you're in meetings all morning, you set up AI Companion to generate a smart voicemail greeting in your voice-based. Okay, that's fine. I don't care. Use it to build smart meeting agendas. It'll be able to pull in recommended content, help you keep your meetings on track. I will say that all of this integration did make me a little more interested in Zoom Phone than I've ever been before. So there's that. Give me 1 second, Frank. Real-time summaries of Zoom phone calls. You can give AI Companion a short script. It'll generate the clip for you using a pre-selected human avatar. It'll help you book meetings and workspaces.
Or your own, David.
You can create your own?
I saw that it, I haven't seen it in action, but basically the premise was you could digitize yourself. You could put a text document and it would make a recording and Zoom clips for you using you reading it.
Yep. You'll need a custom AI Companion add-on for for that, but I'd be willing to bet that'll be a big one. People will want that. Yeah. And then you had mentioned this earlier, AI companion for in-person meetings. You'll be able to use the Zoom Workplace app on your mobile device to capture those face-to-face discussions and generate meeting summaries and action items. Your entire life, I mean, everything that we do in work, if you're using, it's all about having Zoom's tentacles in everything that you do, right? If you have your meetings, your virtual meetings over Zoom, and you use Zoom Phone and you use Zoom Docs, and when you're having physical meetings, on-site meetings, use AI Companion, then just imagine with all of that content and context, just imagine how helpful an AI Companion could be for you. Go ahead, Frank.
So, the Zoom Test Kitchen is an awesome place. We're very Zoom meeting and Zoom webinar centric, but Zoom has all these other products that are geared towards big corporations. Zoom Revenue Accelerator, Zoom Meeting Coach, Zoom this, Zoom that. This AI they're building this engine not just for meetings, they're building it for all of their products. And if your company is in that ecosystem, it's going to be in everything.
Yep. Work Vivo also, which apparently is a huge tool for onboarding. Sorry, go ahead.
The CEO Eric during Zoomtopia actually said that most of our tools will appear as if they're built around meetings because that's our main business. We're all about meetings.
Oh, I don't doubt it, but I mean, you don't build a giant AI engine and then restrain it to one thing. They're going to offer it in all of their core products.
Another piece that they spent quite a bit of time on, which I also found interesting, was this Zoom virtual agent for the contact center. And the way they framed it, again, at least the way I heard it, was that when you call a call center, the experience is almost universally awful because what I do is just agent. I don't want to deal with the computers.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because it costs them money. And so
You
I
mean
have
to
some
have an agent. Do you mean to have a live
so
agent?
I have some experience, not a lot, but I have some experience in this area. And one of the biggest words in call centers or customer service is deflection. And that means not allowing you to talk to a person, redirecting you to do self-help because they don't want to spend the money. So this AI virtual agent is a form of deflection, which will save your company lots and lots of money if they can't get, like, not that they can't get through to a human, but you try to prevent that until it's the last possible option. So, Zoom virtual agent will answer your question. Zoom virtual agent will give you resources. Zoom virtual agent, it's all about deflection.
And I think it's also about helping the live agents for those times that a live agent is, and that was they talked about it both from the consumer perspective, from the caller's perspective, and how helpful it could be to the caller, but they also talked about how helpful it can be to the agent. So, there's a moment at which they have to hand it off to an agent. The agent comes on, it does its thing, and then at a certain point, the AI is able to pick it back up and complete the actions that are required.
True, but there's also one other less elegant part of this, which is corporations want to save money, and if they can have less human people,
right,
that translates into more money for their shareholders and their stock price.
Sure. And I wonder if this will be as good, if it will be better than the others that are out there, because right now they're not great. Ruben and then Lois, please.
Some people were saying that, I don't know if they announced it because I was watching the meeting doing something at the same time, that maybe, like, when you call a call center and you have to repeat every single thing to the next agent, that they'll have like context of what the conversation before,
Yeah,
they announced it, or it was somebody talking about it.
No, they absolutely did mention that. You're right.
Okay.
If with AI Companion that's able to understand the context of all of these different pieces of the Zoom world and Zoom Phone, because in this case, that's really what we're talking about. You're right. AI should be able to feed the agent when it does have to hand off to an agent. It should be able to feed that agent all the information so that you don't have to repeat yourself. Absolutely. Lois, Frank, Robert.
So it sounds like, from what Frank was saying, that this is a similar thing to holding a specialty focused Zoom meeting and have people come in and ask basic questions. If you can, when they phone in, if you can answer the basic questions that they have without having to get into the expensive human, that would be useful. The reason that I usually end up, for me, it isn't agent, it's operator, click, 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 is that I don't call them for the basic stuff. I can look that up myself. I don't call unless I have such an odd, unusual, gotta have a human being involved in it sort of situation. And so I think I'm looking forward to this new AI being better than the bot, where you open the chat window and they say, and what's your problem? And you type it all in. And then it comes down and says, well, try reading these things. How to get on? What if I lost my password? It's like, no, that's not what I said. But the bot couldn't read what I said. And so hopefully this will make it much better. I'm optimistic.
Optimistic. Frank, go ahead.
So, a small aside here, I was in the car listening to the radio. Some people still do that. And I was listening to a guy a professor who just won a Nobel Prize in AI, and he's actually a physics professor. But anyways, he was saying that he was very optimistic about the future in AI. He said, imagine going to the doctor, and the doctor knows your whole medical history. He knows your whole family's medical history. He knows about every person on the planet who's ever had the same symptoms as you. How wonderful that doctor will be. It'll be a beautiful, wonderful universe. And I was thinking, yeah, maybe for healthcare, if there's enough safeguards over privacy. But on the other hand, maybe I don't want an AI knowing that much about my business, about my meetings. Like Zoom is going to have to, and they've been very good so far, but all these companies are going to have some kind of safety and privacy regulations. And I think the government's going to have to join the modern era and reinforce privacy laws and regulations in each jurisdiction.
Well, but the AI companion will only know what you feed it, correct?
Yeah, but if you noticed in the Zoomtopia, they were saying that you could feed it, you could give it access to Microsoft, you could get, I don't know where that's going to go in Zoom Companion 3.0, but if you're going to start giving it all your data sources, like John was saying earlier, first of all, it's really hard to extract yourself from that, and secondly, you're giving it access to your whole life, really.
Yeah. Robert.
Just on that note, Frank, with the medical, there's also someone I know who's a doctor who's promoting the use of AI by patients. In other words, you take your laptop or your phone with you, you listen to what the doctor's saying, and the AI suggests to you what questions you should ask the doctor, which I think is very smart.
Wait, as an aside, just real quick, I saw, I forget what it was. I was watching Office Hours or After Hours or something, and Alex was talking about this notebook LM, and one of the things that he said is that there are suggested questions based on whatever you upload, and he said that the suggested questions are just spot on. Just fantastic. So it's interesting to think about AI as a tool not to give you answers, but a tool to give you questions. That's a fascinating piece of the puzzle.
If you go onto LinkedIn, Dr. Harvey talks a lot about this. He's really, really smart. But just going back to the contact center, and I understand Lois's frustration of these AI assistants, but then I always think when I'm communicating with one of them is that these AIs actually learned on information they got from the contact of people. So that company must have had a lot of dumb people in it, that the AI has learned such a dumb way of answering questions.
If I worked in a contact center, I would be fearing for my job security. Those positions aren't going to be around in 5, 10 years unless you're a very high level. Like I've tried tier 1 support, I've tried tier 2 support, and now we need a human intervention.
I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you want to say something else, Robert?
No, I agree with Frank.
Yeah. By the way, just as an aside, shameless plug. Hold on for my plug. I have to get my plug ready. Here it is. Since we're talking about all this stuff, and not just the technical side of it, but also the sort of the morality side, the ethics side, I have a new show that's going to be starting on October 24th through office hours. It's called The Rundown, and they're going to be each week on Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and we're going to take a more philosophical look at shamelessplug.com, a more philosophical look at the whys behind all this technology that's changing our world. And there was, as I was listening to especially the keynote, there was so much in there that was great fodder for conversation on the rundown. So, and if you want to add information, if you want to add topics, questions, and all that other good stuff, just head over to the rundown.show and you can add it there. I apologize for my shameless plug.
I know how you've done that, David. I know how you've done that. You've used AI Companion to generate clips based on all of your notes that you have on your computer.
That's what I did. Exactly. And the show isn't even going to be me. It's going to be an AI-generated person from AI Companion.
Yeah, we need to patent our looks. Otherwise, we're going to have our faces on these AI-generated clips.
That's right. That's right. All right, let's just keep going. So Zoom events, AI content generation to extend the shelf life of their webinar recordings by turning them into video snippets, emails, and blog posts. That's like CapCut, and there are a couple other tools that do that. That you can feed it. What's it? Sorry. Opus Clip, right? You can feed it a full video, and then it will create all the social stuff for you, which is nice.
I was listening to a podcast, and the podcast was talking about a new tool where you put a text document in, it creates the podcast, and it has two different voices having a conversation about the document, pretending to almost be like an interview, and there's no humans involved whatsoever. And I listened to the interview, and it sounded like two people having a real conversation.
That's Notebook LM. That's what I was. Yeah, that's so.
Diving into something today. Well, it's been on a lot of our minds lately.
That's
how
the one
technology is changing.
That's what I
we
listened
experience religious services.
Yeah.
And what better way to kick things off?
Oh no, it's not. It's not the one I listened to. It wasn't about religious services, but it sounded
no. This is the one that I made.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, it was very similar to that. Yeah.
So they all sound the same. It's always the same.
It was a little artificial. So the lady would talk for a while, and the other person would go, yes,
right.
Oh yeah, and then the man voice would talk for a while, and the woman would go, yeah, that's right, yeah.
I will say it's so again, this one I made on sources that I fed it, so I know this topic, and it created this 13-minute thing, and I actually was listening to it and learning. Like, it was wild. It really.
About 3.4% of the U.S.
Contrast this push, and it's a different way of tapping into something deeply meaningful.
Exactly. And he doesn't just leave us hanging with a philosophical concept. He outlines 3 different approaches congregations can take. Physical first, digital bar. You know something's happening, but you're not really experiencing it.
When are you going to upload your voice?
Yeah, well, you can't do that yet here. But yes, that's the tool, Frank. And again, this the podcast feature is kind of it's the flashy thing from it. But I shared this with my daughter, who's going back to college, and it's really you can create a study guide on, this is the study guide based on this. So it has quizzes, answer the following questions in 2-3 sentences, and then it gives you an answer key, and then it has essay questions and glossary of key terms.
Is it expensive?
Is this free?
It's free.
Free. It's included in your, well,
Is
for
there
now.
any premium things you can pay money for?
Not that I know of.
Do they
Not,
build their LLM on your data? What's their privacy like? I don't need to know, but I mean, those are the kind of questions I think about when I hear these things.
sure. So there is a Discord that you can join, which has guidelines.
Usually when something's free, I feel like I'm the product.
Well, you are. I mean, it's Google. So yeah, welcome to Google. Absolutely. I, for one, they can have all my stuff. I don't care.
I also worry Google's very bad at, has a reputation for not keeping their products going.
Right. I actually thought when I first heard about this, I thought, oh, I'm going to put all of my notes in there. And then I said, no, I'm not, because I actually want to keep my notes. And they may kill it. They do give you nice ways to extract your information most of the time. But so if you're interested in this, it's notebooklm.google.com, and there is a Discord where you can actually submit bugs, feature requests. One of the feature requests was actually your own voice. I have to answer this phone. Sorry.
You're up, Mike.
I'm up. All right. On that note, but yeah, so the Notebook LM, I've actually seen other people actually use it as well. One of the people that is also on Twit, as Frank was mentioning, where Leo Laporte has the crew over there. This is the Windows Weekly guys. There's Paul Thurrott on there. And what he's actually done is he actually took a 7,000 word speech from one of the Microsoft executives many years ago. I think at least 10 years ago. And they were talking about ARM coming to Windows, which is a big topic, as most people do know. So they were talking about it back then. So he brought this into the Notebook LM, and actually he did actually post that. If you want to see it on his YouTube channel, he did actually post the full quote unquote podcast that was ran off of this 7,000 word speech that the one of the executives actually at Microsoft actually did, and they just went off on. And you listen to it, and you wouldn't know that, it gets really down to the point. Yes, there is some AI-ish, staticky type of integration into it, where you can still tell that it's still not a human, but good 80 to 90% of it, if you just sat back and just listened to it like you listen to a regular podcast, you'd go, really? Was that really not done by, real people? It's getting closer.
So how does that not violate copyright?
That's
You're taking
where we're gonna
a recording of someone's speech, and then you're transforming it, you're extracting information out of it. How does that not, you don't even have the right to do anything with that person's speech.
That is true. That is true. Again, it was a publicly like this, where he ended up getting the actual transcript from was a publicly available transcript. So again, it was publicly on Microsoft's website. So it wasn't that he was ripping the audio and then having it audio translated into text and then actually uploading that text. He didn't go that far with it. It was actually a true transcript that was publicly available by Microsoft to the world. So there really wasn't, quote unquote, in that regards, copyright to it.
Of course there's copyright. Of course there's copyright, unless that page had a copyright exclusion saying this is public, feel free to do anything you want with it. If it didn't say that, it's copyrighted. You create anything, you are the copyright holder.
What if you don't create it? What if an AI creates it?
What's it creating it from? Have you ripped off somebody else's work in order to use it in AI?
A lot of the LLMs rip people off at the beginning to get enough data to do the modeling, right? There's lawsuits ongoing about this right now.
It seems to be something different between my little poem or story or whatever is one of 5,000 things that this thing has looked at. And so it might use these 2 words from my story. There's something different from that than from taking someone's speech. That's the only source you've got, this one speech, and then messing with it.
But
I
also,
think that's totally
also
different.
art, photography, pictures, music,
Exactly.
all of that stuff. Like I heard that Reddit was used for an LLM to analyze.
Yeah. And again, they are also, there is a lot of legalities. There's a lot of legal court cases going on right now about this. And OpenAI has been doing an awesome job of paying out because of it. When it comes to making decisions with certain, as an example, I believe they did it with the Wall Street Journal. I believe OpenAI was actually getting a lot of information from there. Frank?
There's this concept though, like, in some countries you pay a speeding ticket, right? You go too fast and it's $300, but you're a billionaire or a millionaire. It's nothing to you. So the law really doesn't exist. Maybe they made a business decision that whatever we have to pay out is peanuts compared to the amount of profit we'll make in the future if we break these rules.
Yeah, it comes down to, I'm thinking of the saying, which is that ask forgiveness later, something like that.
It's easier to seek forgiveness than get permission.
Right. And they've never would have been able to grow to having the LLM that OpenAI has.
Yeah, my point is the fine has to, be enough to dissuade people. So if you're going to pay out 50 or 60 million, but you're going to make $60 billion in the next 20 years, I'll take that deal every day of the week.
Yeah. Well, right now there's a lot of discussion over the copyright. Musicians are talking about it. Actors are talking about it. Any copyright holder, like Lois is saying, are talking about it. What is AI going to do to my future, to my revenue for me to come in? Are they going to take it away from me going forward?
Well, that's why I think John's thing he said at the beginning about, like, who are you going to trust with your data? And once you get entangled with them, it's really hard to extricate yourself. I know one of the platforms I use at work has more than 1 million assets. And if we migrated to a competitor, it would break all the links, and a lot of our, like, hundreds of thousands, millions of links would break. We'd have to, first of all, move all the data to the competing company. Then we'd have to repair all the broken links. Like the cost of getting into a relationship with something like this is nothing compared to getting out of the relationship at the end.
Yeah, Frank, that's exactly right. Go ahead, Lois.
Before AI was even in the picture, in the past 20, 30, well, since the internet's been in existence, basically, there has been a cultural shift. People don't no longer think about someone owns a copyright for something. They just think, oh, I can see it, I'll use it. Oh, I can see what they're doing, I'll take a screenshot and I'll use that. And that mentality is really, really, really ubiquitous now. And so I can understand where AI is just pushing it a little bit further. And, yeah.
It's going to come down to, Lois, you're exactly right. It's going to come down to who's going to do that. You've been bad, right? It's going to get down to, is it going to be at the government level? Is it going to be at their government is going to force the companies that are actually generating the actual LLMs to actually be able to do the AI type stuff? Again, is it going to get down to the actual, what LLMs are allowed to have as data, what they're not allowed to have as data? There's going to be a lot of rules coming within the near future. But the good thing that we did here at Zoomtopia, Frank, and I'll go to you.
Sure.
The good thing that we did here at Zoomtopia is that what they're saying is that any data that you feed it from your personal account, at least at this particular point, is going to stay with you and your version of AI companion that you're being given for your account. Now, what does that mean in the future? We don't know, because this is part of 2.0. Go ahead, Frank.
I was just going to say, I like science fiction, and for at least 50 years, science fiction often is a vehicle to have morality explored and ethical questions. And one of the ones is always one of the reoccurring themes in science fiction is having a technology that you're not wise enough to understand or foresee the implications of, because technology can often move faster than our ability to be wise or have thoughtful consideration of the future implications, right? And Zoom and all the other companies that are rushing into this new sort of gold rush, they're not putting as much energy into that part of the ethical considerations as they are trying to stake out their claim to make their new fortunes in the new tech areas, right?
Exactly.
One of the things that also plays into this is that in America, and I'm not sure if it's true in Canada, we give over a lot of power, as people give over a lot of power to governmental agencies, to elected officials, to folks who are writing rules and making laws. And the people who write the rules and make the laws don't necessarily know anything about technology, and B, they have a constituency that isn't me. It's giant corporations and so things like that. So I have known some singer-songwriters that I've known since the 70s who are now at the point where nobody can play their songs without paying this company that collects fees for playing those songs. And even the creator can't play those songs without that company collecting fees. And it's become very, very hard to make a living being a musician anymore. And this hasn't really has to do with AI so much as it has to do with people gave power to these companies, and now they're messing around with people's lives in ways that we didn't know was going to happen, that we didn't think was going to happen. I can't take a song that I have been using since the 70s as an opener and closer for my television shows when I produce TV shows and later on for my radio shows. I cannot use that song on a YouTube recording of one of my shows because they'll flag it, even though I have permission. I have a copyright permission for that song from the creator. And there's no way to let anyone know that I have that permission. They don't care if I have that permission. They're just, they're doing the thing. And I'm a little bit worried that the AI is simply going to exaggerate some of these problems that we already have. I have no solution. I have no complaint. I don't think we should stop having AI. It's just, we are making the world really tough for some folks, and we didn't even know we were doing it.
Very, very true. Very, very true. John, I think you've got some technical stuff on that you're mentioning in chat, in our meeting chat, that you're right. I think everybody should be actually making their own chat bot if they can. Okay.
Another consideration I keep hearing about is all these AI data centers use a tremendous amount of power and energy. So, if Zoom is going to charge $12 a month for this add-on, maybe some of that's profit, some of it maybe it's just break even. I don't know the financing of it, but it's interesting that they're charging $12 a month. I wonder if they're forecasting a lot of server load demand issues and power consumption, or if some of that's profit. Like I don't know. Maybe we'll find out as we go.
Frank, I'm quite sure they have no idea whatsoever. Because the one big problem with AI, it's a front-loaded situation. You have to load the data, you have to process the data, you have to prepare the data. You have to do all of that up front before anyone asks a question of the data. So it all has to be indexed and processed. There's big upfront costs. And that's why these big AI companies are trying to build these big engines. That's the cost. And they have to, yeah, they're going to pray that people then use the data, because if you don't use the data, then, as you say, to you, the consumer, there's no reason to have paid all that money for the data. Unless you use the data, you use it regularly, you make good use of it, and you get value back, there's no point. Even these credit costs that they charge on these AI platforms, they still had to spend millions generating the data in the first place. There was a fantastic application which was used for finding cancers. And it's been amazingly effective at being able to take the X-rays and the other things they use nowadays and find cancers that a specialist wouldn't be able to find because they wouldn't have had the time to do it. But it cost, I think it was $10 million plus for it to train on all the data to start with, so it actually had an understanding enough before they could put one slide in to make it work. AI is going to, well, it's a bet from the financial world. There are lots of AI companies popping up, and they're all getting investment, and they're all eating data, and a great number of them will die.
Yeah, it's like a gold rush. Some people are going to be successful. A lot of people aren't going to make it, right?
Yeah. And Zoom's in a good position to have a stab at being one of the main leaders in that because of what it's already involved in. Yeah, if you've got Zoom Phone, you've got Zoom Contact Center, put all your data in there, I can see lots and lots of opportunities to save money and unfortunately save staff, because you can be a much more efficient beast.
You know,
but how it works at the bottom end, I don't know.
Let's say the first iPod that came off the assembly line cost $1 billion, you know, for all the research and development. And then each one after that became, you know, less and less expensive to the point where, you know, they broke even and then they started making profit off of it, right? And I think this is the same situation where, you know, your startup costs are going to be huge to offer an AI service, but after 5 or 10 years, the returns may be astronomical. Who knows, right?
Exactly. Go ahead, Lois.
Thank you, Frank, for posting in the chat the information about Zoom Workplace for Education. And for those of you on YouTube who don't see our chat, that includes the ability to get a custom AI companion add-on to enable access to additional data sources such as student information systems, etc. But primarily, it's for students to take notes and generate questions, you know, have a summary of what's going on, and then have those questions. Like David was showing earlier, my concern is if I'm the student and we've got a subject that we're working on, if I don't read it, if I let the AI companion read it and summarize it, and so I get 2 paragraphs instead of 20 pages, I have not read it. It hasn't gone into my biological brain. I don't have access to it here. Yes, I'm getting good results. Yes, those questions that it's popping up with, well, they're good questions. I can just ask that question. But I haven't thought it through. I haven't used my own mentality to absorb the information and decide what questions I should ask. And so it's wonderful that these things are going to exist. I think we have to be careful. Not everything that exists should be used for every situation. And this is one of those situations where I think if I were a teacher, I would not want this happening in my school. But anyway, let's get back to talking to AI and then finish up.
Back to you, David.
Sorry. Yeah, I apologize. I'm dealing with some family stuff. Did we talk about the live notes? Did I miss that?
No, actually, I was just about to ask Frank's opinion actually on the live notes for education. Actually,
Yeah,
And-
this is wild. So this is this is right before what Lois just read from this little blurb. A live notes feature will automatically take notes for students while also creating an interactive environment for students to provide real-time feedback or ask questions. And my first thought was exactly what you just said, Lois. The whole point to me of taking notes is not to have the notes afterward. It's the process of taking the notes. It's by writing it down, it's putting it in my head. People will love this, to automatically have notes, but I don't know. What, Frank, do you have a sense of?
And
Sorry, go ahead, Lois.
and there are some of us who can't both listen and take notes at the same time. So for people like me, what I used to do is I would record it, even if it was just on my little phone, and then later on I would listen to it again and I'd be able to pause it and write the notes and things like that.
Right.
That actually works well for me because now I've heard the thing twice and I've written it down. But if you can listen to it and write at the same time, more power to you.
yeah, Frank, we're all waiting for the
Well,
answer.
I'm no great pundit on these topics, but I mean, I know that in the education sector, there's great concern about AI impacting students' ability to study, how they study, the quality of their study, plagiarism, ethical concerns about academic misconduct. There's a lot of these concerns. Students see it one way because they're from a different generation than the people who are teaching them, and education hasn't figured out the answer. They're struggling with this right now. It's probably going to take a long time. Very strong opinions on both sides, pro and con. So I don't have an answer, but I can just tell you, yeah, it's a major concern.
One way that
Maybe they'll start doing research and they'll have two groups of students and one uses the note-taking technology and one does. And then afterwards, they can do a live in-person test with no notes.
One of the issues, though, is students see it from a different perspective. Like, why do I have to memorize, I don't know, the capital of some country? I can look that up. Like, and instructors are like, there's value in having knowledge, but younger people are seeing it differently than older generations. So there's also a generational sort of disconnect there about what's valuable and what's not valuable.
There's a difference between memorizing lists and learning how to think about something. And I'm talking about the think about something type, not the memorization.
Rote memorization isn't necessarily the end all and be all, but just most students now have grown up with a device in their pocket, and if they want to know something, they look it up. And that's a lot different than how other people interact with knowledge, which is on a deeper level. And some people have a superficial interaction with data because they'll go get the data from their device whenever they need it, right? So
and there may be different sources of data that different people are using, and so this person thinks A is true, this person thinks B is true, this thinks C is true, but none of them have really thought about it.
One of the early really nice uses that I saw of this was the assignment to students was to ask AI this question. Back then they only had ChatGPT, so ask ChatGPT this question. And then the assignment is to critique the answer. Did ChatGPT get it right? And you have to cite sources to show whether ChatGPT got it right or whether ChatGPT didn't get it right. So for all the fighting against these tools, I could imagine an assignment, a class assignment, be the notes were done for you. Now critique these notes. How did Zoom AI Companion do in these notes? And again, bring citations and proof of, and proofs and things like that. So I think that there are really powerful ways that we can use these tools. to our advantage. And having said that, I think, Lois, you're right. When you said before that you can't listen and take notes at the same time, I'm the same way. And so the flip side of if I don't take notes, it doesn't get into my head is this allows someone who really needs to focus on the conversation to focus on the conversation.
Okay, before David leaves, we're going to make sure that
Don't
Mr.
take out
John,
my kidneys.
we'll
Wait,
have John
what?
explain that, as well as he has some pricing. Remember, he
Money,
teased
money,
us
money,
in the beginning?
money.
Johnny, what were you teasing us about in the beginning?
Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure that most of
dear
you are
Lord.
in the free world or in the pro world. And then at the other end, we have big corporations at the corporate world. And we've always been concerned that if we wanted to upgrade to business, we needed 10 licenses. But have you looked at the pricing recently? Because you can now have a business license from 1 to 250 licenses. You can have a business plus license from 1 to 250 users. Now I have just 3 licenses.
Wait, stop. You don't get to say something like that because I've been paying for 10 freaking licenses.
I have 3 licenses, and I have today, just for you guys, upgraded myself to Business Plus. So those 3 licenses can now have meetings of up to 300 people. I've got 10 gig of cloud storage. I've got phone. I've got translated captions.
That's not what this says.
And I've got David rather frustrated.
That's not what this says. It says 10 to 250 users.
Zoom.us/pricing?
Yeah.
No, mine doesn't. Mine says 1 to 250. And not only that, I have upgraded with just 3 licenses and it went through happily.
That's what mine says.
And there are even complaints on the community forums in Zoom for people who realize that this is a thing.
Who's screen sharing, David?
Me.
My page says 1 to 250 licenses, $24.99 Canadian.
Now, yeah, I was going to confirm that. It would be Frank definitely saying it in Canadian.
Now, what I was going to say is Zoom has not officially announced it. So it's quite likely that this is some sort of test to see what's going on.
John, where do you live?
I live in the UK. So I've got UK pricing, pound pricing.
So I just logged in as I made sure I wasn't logged in. So I both as a logged in user and as a non-logged in user on the East Coast of the United States, business still says 10 to 25 users.
Remember though that Zoom pushes updates and stuff across their server farms as a wave, not all on the same day. So maybe
this has been out for at least 4 days because there was a post in the community forum.
Maybe there's some reason in America that it isn't there yet.
The
maybe
minimum
check back
amount
tomorrow.
of users, the minimum amount is 10 users.
So
That's
next
not
week,
right.
when we have our meeting, then they should all be the same.
Well, they might take this one away.
What?
Yep. Now,
What?
the only problem I had was I wanted to go annual to lock it in so they can't undo it. And if I go annual, then all my tokens that I've bought for Zoom events have a very quick expiry date and I don't get all the...
What?
I lose all of that. Yeah.
I put what I see in the chat, David.
What?
Thanks for that, Frank. I was doing a screenshot already, but there you go, David. If you want to put that up.
No, I don't want to put anything up. Why don't I get this? I'm paying $2,000 a year so I can have one business account.
Instead of being angry, just be hopeful that it ripples onto your page in a day or two.
Wow.
I think the best thing we can do is encourage people to upgrade, because if they do upgrade and get the features, there is more chance that Zoom will decide this is a good idea. It might be a test. It might be just a regional test.
It very well could be that this is only Canada and UK right now. It could very well be.
It could be. Your
We must
experience
have
may vary.
people on
but
YouTube in
it is
other
interesting.
countries. Put your comments in YouTube if you're in another country. What do you see?
Oh my good. Can we stop spotlighting me with my jaw like on the floor?
I think we need a bigger screen.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, I'm pulling up.
Oh, and we're even getting comments from Dan in YouTube saying, "Say Andy's name 3 times." Okay.
Here is from the screenshot from Canada, 1 to 25. Holy moly. Now, Business Plus, I don't see either. Business Plus isn't available to me at all. What is that about?
Yeah, whereas I've got Business Plus, which I've actually upgraded to. So it's 1 to 250 users again.
I'm going to log into my business account because I wasn't on it before. Oh, God, I have to do this. Hold on a second.
You might want to stop sharing while you're sorting that out.
I don't think it really matters, does it? I don't know, does it? Maybe.
I will talk to make sure that David doesn't show off his 2-factor.
No, there we go. Okay.
And we're back.
All right, so now I'm going to go to plans and pricing. Yeah, same thing. And I don't have the
What
Business
about the
Plus.
bundles on the bottom of the column?
Bundle and save. Okay. There's Pro Plus and Zoom Workplace Plus Phone. Still says business is 10 to 25 over there. Pro Plus, Business Plus, huh?
Yeah, well, at the moment in the UK, we don't have the Pro Plus as an option.
Wow.
And there's still a bundle and save at the bottom of that column.
There's a bundle and save. Hold on, let me go down now. At the right down here. Let's see what this is. Oh, no. There's nothing.
Lois, actually, you did actually find it in Canada. We actually have the bundle and save will get us Pro Plus or Business Plus.
Yeah, and the bundle and save at the bottom of these two are not clickable. So
in Canada, they are.
At the bottom.
There you go, right there.
No, that I know. But then when you go to this page, then you've got bundle and save here, and those are not clickable.
Oh, okay.
All that's doing, by the way, is taking you to the phone page. It's that when you click on bundle, it's just taking you from workplace to phone. Individuals and businesses. Plans and pricing.
Interesting. Dan is telling us from YouTube for you to possibly clear cache, maybe. Oh, Dan says, nope, never mind. He tried and he's getting the same you are as far as he's telling me in YouTube.
Different legal jurisdictions, maybe they've got a few hoops they got to jump through before they change the prices or something.
You really think they're going to change let
yeah
business be one
if they're going to do it in other countries, I think they'll do it in the States too.
But don't they usually start in the States with
I don't
this
know.
kind of stuff? And why didn't they announce
That's
it?
so American centric. Why
Sorry.
can't it start in Canada?
No, it can start wherever you want. It's just, I'm just thinking historically.
You know, it's Thanksgiving here too.
So it sounds like there's some homework to be done here.
Oh my goodness.
I think that's a great news find from John. Thank you, John.
Yeah, John.
You are all very welcome. And those that can get it, please upgrade, because that will encourage Zoom to realize they've done a good thing here and they can roll it out worldwide.
Can we just talk for a moment about why? What's the value?
Using more
proposition?
Apps. Use the other apps.
The
more you upgrade, the more apps you're using.
Yeah, we have like 15 something like that. We have like Inception, and every year they want to upgrade us to the Pro, and we're like, no, we want to stay here. So at least now I have an option.
But maybe, and I have no inside information, maybe it has to do with Companion 2.0 and they can make it on the $12 upsell and they've done their forecasting. I don't know, like they probably have a reason.
I'm sure they have a reason if it's even happening. I'm thinking about my experience as a single person on a business plan and how so much of the benefit of a business plan has not benefited me because I have, as I've said a number of times, I have no friends. So like there's no one else in my org for me to use these tools with. So to extend a business plan to an individual will also necessitate them changing the way some of these apps work. Like team chat, for example, it's not only within org, but I don't know. That's really
Maybe it's
interesting.
cheaper for them to let everyone be business and not have to deal with individuals, individual licenses, and then they won't have to have different server configurations. Who knows? Like, I don't know the reasoning, but
And just because you have access to something doesn't mean you have to use it.
Of course, but think about this for a moment, Lois. I mean, if on a business plan, all these folks presumably will have access to 1080p. That's going to put a huge burden on Zoom to be pushing 1080p feeds for all these individual users.
I think it would, but I also think about how much burden AI is going to put on their servers. So does that mean that they've already spun up and are spinning up more server farms anyways? So a couple more 1080p feeds, is that, I don't know, like, doesn't matter.
And by the way, magically, there was a subtle hint, I believe Andy mentioned to us a couple weeks ago that related to 1080p, if I remember correctly.
What did he say?
That there was automatically the lower accounts are going to get 1080p.
Are the higher accounts ever going to get 4K?
He said that.
4K part?
Who needs 4K?
For the recordings, a lot of people would like 4K.
I'm just sitting here now refreshing my Zoom plans and pricing page, just waiting for something to happen.
Next Prime Day, you can get the sale.
Right.
I'll sell you a VPN.
So if I live in California, what's to stop me from logging on to the Canadian website and just buying it there?
We wish not to comment due to the fact that it might incriminate.
We can't discuss that.
By the way, did you know that did you know that you can now buy Zoom Docs as an add-on?
No, I didn't know that.
So finally, I have something new. I bring something of value. Look at this.
Yeah.
So presumably, if you're not if you're on free.
Yeah, if you're on free, you get 5 2-minute videos. That's your basic.
No, that's clips. I'm talking about docs. Core features. Where's docs?
Docs, you get share up to 10 docs, according to my price list.
Thank you. Oh, here it is. Yes. So with docs, you have limited features. Docs basic. Okay, so this is just like clips. Docs basic, unlimited private docs. 10 docs can be shared with others. Access version history for 7 days. Collaborate during and outside of meetings from any device. Docs unlimited is $9 a month or $90 for the year. That's where you get AI Companion, unlimited number of shared docs, access unlimited version history, and collaborate. So if you don't have so you get docs included with Pro and Business. If you're on a free plan and you want to use Zoom Docs, then it's $9 a month or $90 for the year. So they've done the same thing they do with Zoom Clips.
All this tiering.
Yeah, David, I'm curious if you go into where you compare all features.
Yeah.
Are they giving you a different number for license count in there?
Hold on.
Scroll.
Sorry.
Yeah, core features.
Core features.
Do the pull down there? No, still
10 to 250. Yeah.
Yeah, ours has changed. Ours says 1.
Oh my gosh. Holy moly. It's not fair.
Okay, I'm gotta ask this. I am so confused. on the business plan, it says 10 to 250. That means you can't have less than 10 accounts? You
Correct.
have to have 10 accounts?
That's right.
Correct.
Well, that's silly.
No, I mean,
Yeah,
Right.
I understand. That way you can treat everybody the same. Yeah, I got it. Okay.
But John's revelation is maybe that's not going to stay that way for you.
not anymore. So then what would be the differentiator between pro and business then? Presumably the 300
$5.
$5 and 300 people,
Unlimited whiteboards. and the
unlimited
scheduler,
whiteboards.
and the managed
250
domain.
accounts versus 9 accounts. The top line there.
Yeah,
Well,
you could have more accounts.
So that's the big difference.
But I'm not that'll you could purchase more than 9 pro accounts.
Sure.
What's stopping you from doing that? I'm not sure why that 1 to 9 even makes sense.
Why don't they mention these things? Like, this is a big change. It's like, we'll just change our website. You figure it out. How come they don't make more of it?
David, if you're looking,
I'm
you-
looking. You
John,
guys, yeah.
you're looking at John's share? Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
just sharing it so you can see the comparison that the features.
Yeah.
It's interesting, John, that they actually laid out for you both they actually have on that same page Business Plus, where we don't have that either.
They're always messing with their licensing. Business Plus. What are they going to have next year? Business Plus Plus? Like,
If
how
I
many
don't,
tiers?
Business
if I
Pro.
don't mess with anything and I'm on a pro account, will it magically change to 99 users from 9 users?
No, you have to purchase more.
But it says pro, 1 to 99 users.
But what happens after 99? Do you go to a different tier like enterprise?
The numbers are meaningless. That they need to take those off. Pro, it's just basic pro, business, and business plus. The numbers are meaningless. Because you can have less than, you can have 1, you can have 99, but you can have 99 of business also. What they need to do is, it's just a differentiation of tools and whatever you call it.
But they've done this with enterprise too, like education plus,
Right.
and there's different, like, I don't have we have the limited clips, whatever it is, 5 clips per person, and to get clips for the whole enterprise, we have to get enterprise plus, basically.
Dan just expressed VPN'd into Canada and he's getting it.
Yeah, he's now seeing it.
He's seeing the 1 to 2.
We had to do that with On Zoom. If you wanted On Zoom in Canada, you had to VPN to get it because On Zoom is only America only.
Yep.
Wow, Jean, you've just broken my brain a little bit.
Well, we didn't want it to just be AI, did we?
There
We wanted
are
to talk
some
about something else.
there are some things to consider though if you're going to VPN. Like, certain services for Zoom are only hosted in the US. For example, we wanted our data centers in Canada because we're in Canada, and they told us you can do that, but you're going to lose some functionality. And we said, what functionality we're going to lose? And they said, well, certain things are only done on the American servers. Eventually we hope to deploy servers for those services in each country, but right now certain Zoom services only happen on US servers. And if you do that, you're going to lose access to some of those Zoom abilities.
Yeah, very, very true. And I can speak from that as well because of the fact that even today during our meeting here, I was initially on a data center Canadian server that actually said the data center was in Canada, but I, for whatever reason, disconnected and I didn't lose internet. And within a few seconds, I reconnected to our meeting here today, and I'm magically on the US server now, not a Canadian one.
David, I don't think you were here last week. Hasmuk asked us a question at the beginning of the show about how to figure out registrations. And by the end of the show, Hasmuk had left and we were still talking. I logged in at the beginning of the show to my particular admin section, and the ability to do what I wanted to do didn't exist. And by the end of the show, there were new buttons that said new on them, and everything Hasmuk asked for was infinitely easier to do by 2 hours later. And we were joking that
so
Zoom was
powerful.
listening to us and making
right.
dynamic changes to the server. So maybe the price will change before the show is over.
That's why I keep refreshing. Yeah.
2 weeks
But
in a
from
row,
a Zoom
David.
point of
2
view,
weeks
it
in a
does
row.
make sense, doesn't it? It makes sense to encourage people to go up levels and not have to keep selling all these stupid little add-ons here and there. So if you look at the add-ons like phone and you want unlimited docs, it's much cheaper to upgrade than it is to keep buying add-ons. But that 10 user limit, I don't know what the mix of users, I don't know if Zoom would ever release the figures, but there must be a great proportion of the companies that are running Zoom who have less than 10 pro accounts. I have a dozen. I think I've got about a dozen accounts on my Zoom system at the moment because each computer has its own free account. So if it wants to come in as an individual for whatever production reason I need, I can bring it in under its own login as a completely separate individual. And I have 3 pro accounts. Well, I now have 3 business accounts. Sorry, Dave. But I have 3 accounts that I'm paying for, which I then circulate. But the extra features, you can persuade me to upgrade for a few dollars and up for the extra features, and I'm going to take them, like the cloud storage, the phone, because I'm starting to use Zoom Phone. I like that. Unlimited docs. That sounds good to me. And if they are going to start adding new features like AI and all these other features, that feature list of add-ons is going to get so complicated that we're going to need an AI just to explain it to us. So if they can try and encourage us all to upgrade and then throw in new features, they can simplify the whole system. But this is why I was saying to people, if you've got it and it's available to you, take it, because Zoom changed their systems all around. And Mike can quite easily testify that when we have meetings with the Zoom events group and they introduce new features at Zoom events level, the first discussion that comes after that, if that feature's been dropped, is, are we going to allow this feature to come down to other versions of Zoom? So we have a new great feature in Zoom events. Oh, that sounds great. Why can't we run it separately in Zoom webinars? And Zoom have to then decide whether that feature should be allowed there. Well, should we allow that feature to go down to Zoom meetings? It's a constant feature creep, but they're always going to have, obviously, premium features only available at the very top. But I think they need to clean up their features to make it a bit easier. But I can totally see why they will make offers in one country that are not available in another.
Yeah.
And then
John,
from the results of that, they might then offer it to everybody else. Just like YouTube may roll out a feature to Australia because it's a small market and they can see the results. And then if it works, they'll roll it out somewhere else.
Yeah, John, so what made you find this week?
I was actually looking at adding another license.
And it just happened that you saw it, that these changes.
Well, no, because it was a bit more weird than that. I was thinking of adding a new license, and then I was in my Zoom community forums, and there was a comment about it in the Zoom community forums. And then I went back and looked again, because again, I opened the pricing screen and didn't see the fact that it was 10.2 until I saw a comment in the Zoom community forums. And I went back and I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to upgrade and see if it takes my money. And it did.
Oh, so this was prior to them even changing it on the main page that they did this for you?
I did this 2 days ago. The comment in the community forum is, I think, 4 or 5 days old. So they've done this in the last week.
Wait,
that
what
I'm aware
comment in
of.
the community forum?
There was a comment in the community forum because somebody was asking a question about upgrading his pricing and it couldn't get his pricing to work. The one thing I found, the problem I found, I think I mentioned it, was that I'm on monthly at the moment, and I'm on monthly for Zoom events, and I've got pay per attendee as well in Zoom events. and it started alerting me that it was going to swap all that around and I was going to lose tokens and not have a year to spend them. So I've had to go on it monthly when really I wanted to tie this down and I'd have paid annually. But yeah, I've seen no, and I keep searching for it. I've seen no official Zoom announcement about this whatsoever.
Right. So this might be a subtle.
Well, they've had pricing changes before, and I am famous or infamous at Zoom in the Zoom events group because I was using Production Studio and Backstage on my normal webinar license, because when I upgraded, it said you could run it anywhere and there was no limitation to running a webinar. So I was running Backstage on a normal webinar license.
Yes.
And then they
Ruben.
changed, which meant I had a 100-seat events license and I was getting a 300 event running on a webinar license. That's not allowed anymore. They've now realized that that's an overlap that doesn't work. And so they've got rid of that. So now you have to run it all in events. So there are, I mean, there's lots of stories of people that are on different systems with Zoom. They're paying for an option that's no longer available, and they're getting the advantage of that. And at one point, they'll decide that what they paid for is not worth it, and they'll upgrade to something else. So Zoom are known for doing this, but it makes a change that the US doesn't get it first.
Yeah. It was actually kind of nice that when you mentioned it, that, Frank and I checked here and it was available for us too in Canada. So that was cool too. So I'm curious, everybody's opinion and on YouTube. Do we think that means that if they are doing this to allow the one up to 250, is it for business now? Is that what they're doing? I think that's what we're seeing. So do we think now that Pro will be grandfathered?
Or just a simpler question, now that option is available, or as that option is available at this moment, do you think it's good value and will you be upgrading? And please do, because the more people that see it now, that's why I want to share it. Not because I like to see David feeling he's missed out, but I wanted to share it because the more people take advantage of this, the easier it's going to be for the marketing guys to say, this is a good idea because look, we've just increased our revenue because all these people are now upgrading. And as Frank says, I don't think the support issue gets really complicated because they have rules about support based on the revenue that you are spending per month. So if you do upgrade your existing accounts, you're not likely to jump into another support tier and they're going to be obliged to give you another level of support because it's the amount of money you spend per month that they determine what sort of support you get.
Exactly. And David, thanks again for hosting as usual. And David said
to everybody, cry.
He's got, no, he's going to be all the way home. He's going to be driving with one hand and refreshing with the other. He said, refresh. He's going to be doing that all the way home now to make sure that he's the first to know in the US that the page has changed, and he'll be probably calling his rep probably Monday.
But I'll give you an example. I've got a group that I'm part of. They're growing. And the fact that they were hitting the 100 mark for their meetings on a regular basis is starting to annoy them. And if it's a no-brainer for them to upgrade to get to 300. And I'm sure there's a lot of other small, medium-sized businesses that run, webinars, meetings, etc., where once you're successful, 100 is actually really quite easy to hit. 300, it's going to be a lot harder to hit, but they'll get there. And if they get there and they then have to buy a 500 license upgrade, then that's fine. But I think for a lot of organizations, 100 seat is actually, if it's not a meeting and it's like you're bringing customers in or suppliers in and having some sort of presentation, I think 100 is now, as we're all getting used to using this format, 100 is starting to be a limitation. And let's be honest, you can lock down a meeting to the point where it almost looks like a webinar anyhow.
Right. Yeah, with focus mode and all that fun stuff. Ruben, do you hit the 100 limit of your meetings?
We don't. but what we'll have is I go over the 100. We have a event license, so what we do is for that particular Zoom, we have extra that add-on on that only on that one. So when we know that meeting is going to be over, we use that account for those meetings.
So you'll use your Zoom Events account because it has a larger capacity than your Pro account.
So what we have separate. So we have the events license, and then on that account we have the add-on that's like big meeting add-on. So you have to pay extra for that.
Okay.
Because we're in the Pro, we're not business. And then we have an exception, not an exception, but at the beginning, before they did the business thing, when you go over 10, you have to move to business. And every year they want us to move to business, and we say no, we're gonna keep it. So now we can keep it because this pricing is good for us.
Right. So would it make sense for you now that they wanted you to go to business? Does it make
No,
sense?
I'll stay. We'll stay in the Pro now because now we that it says 1 to 99.
Yeah.
Before it says 1 to 10. Once you go over the 10, you have to upgrade.
Right. So you've actually gone beyond 10 at this point on Pro?
So we have 15 accounts. No, we have 18 accounts. But we still have the Pro pricing.
Uh-huh.
But each year they want to push us there, and we say no, we're gonna keep the contract says that, and we're gonna keep this. So now we're good because they updated this, so it's good for us now.
Right, but realize that they're still keeping the 1 to 9 for Pro.
Oh, it's still
website.
they're not.
Where they're changing now is the business side.
Oh, they're going
where David, unfortunately,
has to get to a 10. Oh, okay.
He was buying 10 by default because
okay.
he wanted some of the business functionality, and at that time, everybody was encouraged to go to the business so you can get 1080p.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
So
one of the screens, Mike, said 1 to 99 for Pro.
Yeah, for mine, Pro is 1 to 99.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
So if you want to stay in Pro, if you're going to invest in events license, you're going to hold all your events, bigger events in that license, then staying down in the Pro 1 to 99 could make sense.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in the 300 seats, unlimited whiteboard, a scheduler. I'm going to have to check what the managed domains are. I'm assuming we'll be able to have a domain name on the. I won't mention the one I have because it's not right. But moving on, I also like the ability to pay another $3 or $4 more, and I'll get cloud storage of 10 gig. Cloud storage is quite important when it comes to Zoom. If I hold an all-day event, I can fill up 5 gig in my recordings. I can get phone and translated captions. To me, that's quite a good deal. But I don't know how well it affects in the world of Frank. So over to you, Frank.
I don't know that it does impact me. I'm on enterprise. There's different enterprise licenses. We're grandfathered on a plan that no longer exists. I don't know if they'll kick us off or not, but I haven't heard anything. But I was a little sad that we didn't get some of the functionality in the new plans, but I think it has pricing implications, so we didn't want to spend any extra money.
Makes sense. Go ahead, Ruben.
Or maybe now, because it has 1 to 99, no, 1 to 250. Maybe now we have the opportunity of, at least 1 or 2 accounts to make them business and use that account for that.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Some of your over.
I don't think that's allowed.
Oh, that's not allowed. Okay.
I think you have to have them all Pro or all business or all business plus or free. I don't think you're allowed to mix and mash Pro and business accounts together.
How in the world would they know if I sign up for one thing here and I sign up for another thing here? How are they going to know? I've got a zillion different emails.
They wouldn't. But
so it's a tenant. So how I see it is as a tenant, we have, our corporation has an email at the end, and then we manage everything on that under that. Like the Microsoft Outlook, is a tenant. It's like a
corporate email. That makes sense. Yeah.
Lois, if you do it the way you're saying, you'll lose a lot of the advantages of having everyone in the same organization.
Right, and I don't have an organization.
No, but I mean, even if you're not an organization, if you're not part of the same Zoom license, and let's say you bought a pro for one person and a business for another, now you guys can't be alt hosts for other. You don't have scheduling privilege, so you could do that, but you'd like, I don't know. I don't see the value in it.
Yeah, I agree. Unless you're an organization, having the two things wouldn't make sense.
I wanted to ask a slightly different question, but do any of you use your basic licenses to invite people to your Zoom license?
Say again?
That's an interesting question. Do that again, Frank.
So on Zoom, once you're a paid Zoom user, like Lois, let's say you have a paid Zoom license, you're allowed to invite people to your account who are basic users.
Invite people to my account, or do you mean to a meeting?
No, to your account.
I don't know what you mean by that.
So you invite people to your account. They can be paid users or they can be free users. And they'll be part of your license. So let's say you buy 3 licenses and you give your 2 best friend licenses. There'd be 3 people on your license. But you can also you can make people basic users on your account. I think we have right now 16,000 basic users. And we use the basic users as a holding tank instead of deleting people. That way, if they come back, we can restore them. But I mean, regardless of that, you could just have basic users on your account, I think. I mean, at least in enterprise you can. Maybe on a pro license you can't. I don't know. Can you have basic users on a pro license?
Yes, you can.
Pro, yes. That's what we use. We have 18 license accounts, and then we have everybody else, over 100 people have basic Zoom accounts.
So they're using the basic Zoom account so that they can enter meetings and stuff. Why would I want to invite them to my account? What would be different than they're simply having their own account?
When someone's part of your organization, it starts like I'm going to stop using the word organization. When you have people who are part of your account, now you have different things you can do. You can manage them, you can help them. They can still come to your meetings. If you're the host of the meeting can still be longer than 40 minutes, but you can also make them an alt host. And that way you could say, let's say, Lois, you have a pro account and you invite your best friend to be a basic user and you schedule a meeting and make them, you can't do alt host unless they're a paid user too, but it's a way to have people in your account. You can take care of all their settings. You can do things for them. You can manage their account for them. If they're not techie, it doesn't cost them anything, but there's limitations on what they can do with those free accounts.
Okay, so I hear you saying that I could become the manager of the club.
Yeah. Like I said, though, there's things you can't do. Like if you're not going to attend a meeting and that person doesn't have a paid license, then they can't be the alt host. But it'd be a way for you to manage other people's accounts who aren't very technical.
Well, that's interesting. I never even heard of that or thought of that or even figured that there was a reason for that. Thank you, Frank. I will think about that over the week and maybe I'll have something to say next week.
What we do here is we actually have our main accounts, and I have also some of my technicians and my IT staff. We also have basic accounts as well, but they're more used for testing purposes. So when we're testing out different, Zoom integrations, as example with vMix, I'll log in with a basic account into a Zoom meeting that was made by a licensee account. So again, I could do stuff like that as well. It allows for different uses, and also allows you for different, in our case, testing of using Zoom in different situations. So
Frank,
yes.
when we, in the scenario that you put forward, we've got a little club, etc. Do we all have to have the same domain name for our email addresses in order to?
No, you don't have to.
And
but
how?
there are advantages to doing that, but you don't have to.
Well, but if we had to, then we'd have to get a domain name and we'd have to do
Yeah. I'm
all
just
that
saying
stuff.
there's a bunch of cool stuff you can do if you do it, but you don't need it.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Johnny.
You cannot have the same email address used in more than one Zoom account. So if they're using a Zoom account already of their own, you can't give them a Zoom account on your Zoom account with the same email address. Email address can only be used once.
Yeah.
If you've got a load of
Zoom uses the email account as a unique identifier.
Yeah.
So, but I could, if they already have an email address and they already have a Zoom account, I could invite their basic Zoom account that exists into this new configuration. Is that true?
Exactly. And then they would join you and their email account would then be under your account. If you have a whole set of accounts, they would
lose control over their own settings.
They would lose the admin control, so they'd lose the global settings.
They would become subservient to your administrative settings.
But they could change their own personal settings
within the limitations. Yeah. So if you're in charge of the paid account and you invite your friends over to your account, then whatever settings you've set on your Zoom account would be the settings that everyone has to follow, except for the things that are unlocked.
Okay. And one last question about this is, so I'm thinking about the folks who are not technologically savvy, and it would be really nice if I could help them out a little bit. If I had one of those people join and I could manage their account, could I also put something into their history or give them a login for a particular meeting or something?
You could do a lot of things, but not all the things you said. And there's also privacy concerns because now you'd be able to see their recordings. You might be able to read their transcripts. Like, they may not want you to be able to do that if they've already got a free account and they're not part of your account.
But I couldn't give them the access to a particular meeting without going through the whole email, send a link kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So what happens is Zoom forces you, some of the cool stuff you can do in Zoom, like scheduling privilege or alternative hosts, all the people involved have to have a paid account. So being free means you can't do some of that cool stuff. And not just you who has a paid account, the other person who's your friend has to have a paid account too if you want to make them the alt host or if you want to give them scheduling privileges or stuff like that. You can't do it unless they have a paid account as well.
Now, of course, the next level of people are going to ask is the question, well, if I've got 3 pro accounts and Bill leaves, can I pass the pro account on to somebody else? And the answer is yes. So you can move your licenses, you can assign your licenses between the users. But for those of you that think you can game the system, I have an official warning from Zoom. If you keep constantly moving accounts from one person to another every day, so you're trying to share pro accounts between you, you will find that option is frozen for the month and you won't be able to move them anymore. So if you have a group of people and somebody is in charge of running meetings this month, you could give them the pro account. And then if somebody else was in charge of doing meetings next month, you could move that pro account to that person and that would be fine. But if you do it every day, you'll get your knuckles wrapped by Zoom. And this also applies to all add-ons. So if you've got an events add-on and you start handing it around from one person to another, you will get told off. But if you do it once in a month, no problem at all.
There are so many people who are mad that Zoom installed or invoked this feature, whatever it was a year ago, because they were blatantly ripping Zoom off by doing this all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
and you can, on a free account, you can actually run over 40 minutes. I think it's 3 times in a month. If you
isn't that Basic Plus?
No, Basic is until 40 minutes.
No. Basic Plus allows you to do what John's describing 3 or 4 times a month. You can extend your meeting.
The little timer at the top there's a link on there, and you can click on the link and you can override it. That's Basic Plus.
But a basic account isn't doing that.
No, a basic account is a free account.
Just so that listeners don't think that, oh, I've got a basic account and now I can go more than 4 minutes. Nope. Plan yourself to have a 40-minute meeting or less. Yeah. So, Mike, I am going to have to leave now.
Alrighty.
Boy, this was a long session.
Have a happy Thanksgiving this weekend.
Thank you. But I wanted to ask about twine and twining, and we didn't get to it. So Zoom Twine, Twine, I would like to put in a request for next week, and hopefully we can talk to it then.
I've never heard of Zoom Twine. Can you at least tell me what it is?
It's an app, and they were David.
A marketplace app?
A Zoom app.
Zoom Marketplace? Okay.
I don't know.
There's lots of them in there.
David was talking about it several years ago, and showed this wonderful thing. You have breakout rooms, but you have visual access to them, and it seemed to be a much more human feeling sort of thing. But anyway, let's not do it now because I gotta leave. And next week, okay, guys?
Is it this or?
It looks like it.
Oh.
Yeah. David will have a presentation for us, I'm sure, because he told people about that 2 weeks ago. So 2 years ago. My gosh, we've been doing this a long time. All right.
Yeah.
Nice to see you guys.
Don't eat too much pumpkin pie.
Oh, mine's going to be strawberry rhubarb.
Oh, I love that. I'll be right over.
Take care, Lois. Good to see you as usual. Bye. Okay, so yeah, so it looks like Twine is it looks like it's a third-party company, Frank, from what I've seen, and I think I put the link in there to the actual one of their. It looks like they have multiple.
I noticed a month ago there were a lot of people posting on the Zoom community forum about another partner Zoom had that went bankrupt, and so not all these businesses make it. So they were leveraging Zoom's APIs and SDK to do fancy enhanced whatever. I think it was for recruiting or something. Anyways, they went out of business. And then I think Zoom stepped in to, I think, try to rescue the users and give them normal Zoom accounts or something. But they lost some of the data that the special company, built on top of Zoom's SDKs.
I think I did hear about that one, Frank, and I'm trying to remember the company.
I don't want to name the name anyways, but
Right.
they were
No, that's fine.
I think they were based out of Florida.
Yeah, but I think you're right. Where the majority of their interface and their infrastructure was already using Zoom. Okay. Getting to a comment that Dan made, I just want to finish that up. Dan was saying, but they give you a report called inactive users. I think this is going back to the licensing. Its purpose is to show who isn't using their license. Guys, Dan's right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Cool. All right. So let me see. There was a couple other things that I wanted to mention that I noticed at Zoomtopia. I noticed there was a lot of audio and video sync issues. I think Robert brought this up earlier, but I just wanted to go into that a little more. I did notice that quite a bit. As far as I saw, ever since Josh started in the pre-show, all the way through the whole keynote to the end, as far as I saw, the audio for sure at my end anyways, was ahead of the video. Anybody agree with me? Saw that?
There were issues.
There were issues, but I didn't notice it. I did see it in the chat. Maybe.
Here's what I'll say though. Like, I've done lots of big shows. Big shows often have issues. Usually after the show is over, the next day, whatever, the next week, you have a post-mortem, you talk about what went wrong, and you make sure it doesn't happen next time. And I'm sure Zoom is doing that too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want a list of my of the things that I noticed, let me know. But I do have a small list. But yes, you're correct, Frank. Yeah, I did notice some of the stuff, but Robert's right. I was watching it more as a producer than I was actually paying attention most of the time to the actual content that they're talking about, because a lot of it doesn't affect our company personally. So that was a lot of things. But yes, as I've mentioned to a couple of you personally, I was Zoomtopia for myself was quite disappointing, especially during both of Andy's talks regarding the amount that was being, you could tell that Andy was reading, unfortunately, even though it was well produced. So there was a lot of.
I saw the teleprompters in a lot of the audience stuff, and a lot of the people, even in the pre-recorded stuff, you could tell they were reading a teleprompter, and it just looked bad. But that's something that people who do what we do would notice, but I'm sure a lot of people would never even see it, right?
Right. Yeah. And again, as I was saying, I'm looking at it from a production standpoint. That's why, as John said to everybody out there in the Zoom community and Zoom specifically, employee wise, we love you guys. We know you could do better. That's why we're just mentioning what we're mentioning to you guys, because we know you can do better. We can do better. And then, there's been some comments that Robert could have definitely assisted a lot more in the translation stuff, so that would have alleviated a lot of the things. I did notice, and again, I mentioned this earlier in the show, that there was an English translation, which didn't make any sense to me because the main audio was already English. So I don't know if that's a feature that has to be turned on by default.
Yes, I've done a few translation, and there's always that English channel, even if you have the original. Yeah, it is a little confusing, but it's set up like that.
There's the floor audio.
Yeah.
And then there's the
main
translated audio.
Main audio, and then English.
If you know what I'm talking about, Mike, the floor audio.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that you can get the floor audio, or you can get the translated audio.
Right. And again, if the floor audio is going to always be English, I don't understand having the English functionality, but it sounds like it's a.
No, I think they have it. I think they have it like that just in case. It's like a feature. For example, if somebody starts speaking another language in the main audio, that's why you have the English. And you have, let's say, a meeting that you have that's going to be, the main audio is going to have a couple of, that's what they had. We had English, and then we had French, and then we have, but then somebody started French in the main, like somebody that doesn't speak English is speaking French, then you have the translation of the English audio.
Fair
I think
enough.
that's what it is for.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Again, knowing Zoom as well as we do, and knowing it was based out of the US, I was expecting 100% English. So
I didn't watch it, but I think I read someone in the chat say that the ASL went out too.
No, the ASL would now. I did because I was kind of doing the production thing also. I was going through the Spanish to the English to the ESL. So somebody said the ESL was out. So I was like, oh, what's going on?
ASL.
ASL was out, and then I did see the video cut out. There was no video on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I was doing the same thing like Ruben, where people were starting to complain in Spanish. They were actually complaining in chat.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because I speak Spanish, so I was jumping in and out of Spanish to see.
As Robert said, I was consuming it two different ways at the same time. I was watching it from a production level, but I was also really trying to understand what was new. I wish they would have been more, how can I say this? I wish they would have given more guidance about when things were sort of going to get released, like Q1 for some of it, and then really no specifics. But I guess that's kind of typical of Zoom. They do that every year because they're forecasting a year in advance, right?
Yeah. The only thing that I did actually out of Andy's, when it came to the Zoom Rooms related Pro AV, which I think they might be actually changing the name, and I'm going to have to double check that with Andy. To it being, I think they're using some sort of custom, what did I write down? Custom Rooms AV, where I thought it was going to be called Zoom Rooms Pro AV. So I think they're actually
marketing.
marketing change.
Marketing gets to decide those kind of things.
Yeah, and there is a beta coming out of that this month.
Oh yeah, I didn't catch that, but
Yeah, he did actually have that in the when he was doing his presentation part of it. See, the part that I was having a problem with was the chat was more interesting to me. I know Ruben, you probably agree with me on that one. The chat was more interesting to me because I thought that a lot of these videos that they were doing, I was waiting for people to actually for the video to finish so they would actually come on and actually do the real seminar part or real webinar part.
That didn't happen.
Then all of a sudden it finished and I went, oops, I guess I should have been paying attention because now it just went right by me. And I was, again, more engaged on everybody chatting in chat than the actual, unfortunately.
I found a lot of the chat was like stupid. I really, there were some interesting comments in the chat. There was a lot of self-promotion and stuff. And I noticed the moderators were deleting those posts.
Interesting.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
No. Ruben, you caught that?
No, I caught some links. And there
People were putting stuff like LinkedIn links and all kinds of other stuff and
email addresses.
all kinds of
somebody was complaining about the Portuguese because I don't know Portuguese. Somebody was saying that the Portuguese translation was bad, but it's a person, you know, so I can't complain. It's something doing in live, you know.
Oh, the actual person speaking Portuguese was speaking improperly.
No. Like, no, the people were saying that the translation was, as in, it wasn't fast enough, or I don't know, it wasn't clear enough. I don't know, because I don't speak Portuguese, so that's what I would just, you know, I just read the comment. I was like, oh, okay, but you know, you can't complain somebody that's doing it live, a live translation. It's.
Anyways, I thought the moderators did a pretty good job. You know, the chats were coming in fast and furious, and there were some that I thought were inappropriate, and the moderators were cleaning them up, not 5 seconds after the post got posted, but they were getting rid of them as the fast as they could.
Yeah. I didn't notice them, so they did it at least fast enough for me when I was looking in chat. But that, no, I
maybe
I
they
get
should
that.
have like a feature. You know, they could. You know, you can't post links or something like that.
I also noticed a lot of Zoom Test Kitchen bragging in some of the posts. Hey, Zoom Test Kitchen's in the house. All this sort of thing.
They asked, so I said
I
yes.
was wondering if we'd have like all kinds of new people here this week because of that, but that didn't happen.
Well, we still got Ruben. It's 2 weeks in a row for Ruben.
No, I know, but I meant as a result of
the Zoomtopia.
all the Zoomtopia sort of self-promotion. I think the reason you didn't get, I think the reason they didn't get deleted was because nobody posted a link to Zoom Test Kitchen.
No, I was not doing that hard of, you know, advertising us. No. But again, you know, it got cute because all of a sudden I got in there and all of a sudden Robert said, "Hi, Mike." I said, "Oh, everybody's following me." So everybody thought it was funny that I was talking about that.
The one thing I kind of sad about, or whatever the word is, it was all focused on Companion 2.0. And there was no talk of what new features are coming to meetings, like other kinds of features. Like, I'm sure there's other features coming to meetings in the next year. No insight, no guidance, I have no clue how the Zoom desktop application is going to change in the next 6 months. Like, what new features can we look for? I'm sure there are going to be some. I just don't know anything about them. Like they completely focused on AI exclusively and mentioned nothing else.
The year of AI.
I get it. I get it's important, but I would have liked to have heard what else is going to happen in the functionality of the app.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%, Frank. Now again, I guess we were semi-warned that, well, at least from Josh's end anyways, that there was going to be a lot of AI.
I know.
Talk, but I know.
I like the desktop app, and I like that they keep improving it, and I'm just curious what else it's going to do by this time next year.
Exactly. All right. So if there's any other questions from the YouTube verse, definitely let us know in YouTube chat, and I will relate to the team.
It's after 6 too, Mike, just so you know.
Yep. Thanks for that. On the Eastern time zone.
Yeah, in our time zone.
In our time zone.
I keep making jokes about Thanksgiving because it's Canadian Thanksgiving, and in America it's different. So I just I was kind of teasing Lois, and the first time I said it, she looked at me like, "What are you talking about?" You could kind of tell. She was like, "Thanksgiving's not for a few months."
But Lois was doing an awesome job to make sure that, you know, she was going with continuity and going, yeah, Frank, you know what you're talking about when it comes to Happy Thanksgiving. So yes, to our Canadian folk, yes, on Monday, have a good Happy Thanksgiving, and I'll wrap that up later. But absolutely. Okay, so let me just see if there's anybody else.
Is there anything left on your list, or did you get through your list?
Yeah, as far as the specifics, again, you know, I don't want to get into the nitpicking of audio and video sync, but there was a lot of audio and video sync related stuff.
I'm sure there's people getting roasted by their senior managers, and you probably won't see that next time. But I'm also curious, like after what John showed us about the billing, and last week when we found out that those registration reports showed up on the server, every once in a while I'll log into my Zoom admin panel and I'll just start clicking through all the menus to see if there's anything that, like, it seems like there's silent updates and they don't even tell you that this stuff is happening and you have to discover it for yourself. So I think next week I'm probably going to go through and click on all the different things and look if there's anything different, because I feel like maybe Zoom is so, like, the whole company stops and focuses on Zoomtopia so hard that I think there's other things happening and they just don't get published or announced, or so who knows what's changed.
Play sound when muting. I've enabled that. I find it really useful.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an accessibility feature, but I could see it being useful for lots of people.
Okay, you just freaked me out on that, John. Okay, all right, show us.
Audio settings. Scroll down to the bottom. You've got press and hold for temporary mute, and then you've got play sound when muting and unmuting, and it plays a little ding when you mute and unmute.
Since September, the big release in September, there's only been two new things, and that's one of them. The other one is that individual users can now log themselves out of all devices. That used to be an admin function, and now anybody can do it.
I like it. It's not, you know, outrageously loud. It's just a little interesting. I like it.
Yeah. And especially if you're using control devices and you're using OSC and things like that, it's a nice audible acknowledgement that you've come on or gone off.
Yeah, that's cute. I like that. Thanks, John. There's another little tip. You heard it here on Zoom Test Kitchen.
Does that make it into the recording?
Does that make it into which recording, Frank?
Well, it says audible only to you, so I don't believe it does.
That's good, because that would spoil a recording.
Oh, sorry. You meant cloud recording, Frank, or recordings in general?
No, he means if the
cloud or local.
The chime of, you know, when you mute and unmute, that sound is it go to the recording, and we say no.
Right. Yeah, John, you said it was just a local thing. It's a computer thing, right? Just local.
Yeah, it even puts it in brackets, audible only to you on the.
I wonder about these people who just use their laptop microphone and speakers. If Zoom noise suppression will get rid of it, probably.
I've been using it ever since John showed me where that was. I've been using it. It's actually not annoying. I expected it to be annoying, and it's okay. That was cool. All right. Talk amongst yourselves if there's any other questions, and I'm going to send a quick message to the YouTube chat to see if anybody else has any questions. All right. So, Ruben, what do you think of the Zoom Test Kitchen community?
Right?
You like it?
Yeah. Still processing from last week, but I like it.
Oh yeah, yeah. If anything, because again of the fact that you are so new to the group, any new person, we always, there will be a lot of information flying by, including a lot of people's names that you'll go, who are they talking about? But yet everybody else goes, oh yeah, that guy's cool. Mickey is an example today where we were talking about Mickey, and of course, most of our people on YouTube will go Mickey, and we all love Mickey. And we miss you, Mickey, and you can come to the Zoom Test Kitchen anytime too, by the way, when you get a chance. But we know most of the time you are sleeping when we're live as well. So, but yeah, so that, yes, yeah, there is definitely a lot of little tidbits that you'll grab here and there and everything. You just got to make sure you got to catch them. And if you can't catch them, of course, do like our YouTube audience, obviously, and watch us on archive and go, yeah, I got to remember when that was during the show so I can go back to it, and you'll get that information if you didn't have a chance to make quick notes. And of course, everybody on YouTube as well, by all means, to make sure that you also do that as well. If there's something that was intriguing to you during our show any week. And of course, in our archives, we've got our archives from many, many years now, going back to the days when Jeff was our infamous and host back in the original days of starting the actual Zoom Test Kitchen. And we're focused quite a bit back then, especially on Companion as well. And I can confirm that the latest version of Companion is stable for my use, but your mileage will vary depending on the modules that you use. And John, you're hilarious. That comment will not come to YouTube. Again, if you are able to join us and want to ask your questions locally as well, and of course you're not a friendly neighborhood spammer, like we had when I started the show today. That's why I had to say a quick hi to everybody because I was busy dealing with one right off the top of the show. They wanted to give us lots of love, and I can imagine the kind of love they wanted to give us. So, having said that, our YouTube verse is very, very quiet. So, what we'll do is I will wrap it up for this week, and we will say Happy Thanksgiving once again to our YouTube audience and our Canadian, more specifically, people. And next time on the Zoom Test Kitchen, don't forget to meet us Fridays at 3 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to let YouTube know how much you like our content. And see everyone next week for another edition of the Zoom Test Kitchen. And don't forget, we are here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific. And check your local listings, as they would say in TV land. Good luck. And again, to our Canadian people, happy Thanksgiving. And we'll see you next week.